Hello, everybody, and welcome to Salty Runback's coverage of the North American Challengers League qualifiers. It is day number 4 of the GSL group stage. If you're just joining us from the Challengers League stream, of course, you saw Horizon Gaming fall to Supernova in a 2-0 fashion. But right now, we are going to be covering the bottom half of the bracket in Group D, where ISU and LiT Esports will be facing off in an elimination matchup. I am Grapes. That's Hawk. This is the duo. This is the Salty Runback pod pairing. We're finally here on the stream together. We're gonna cast some League of Legends. How are you feeling?
Oh, Grapes, I'm so excited. We got us together finally, to cast the games. Like you said, it was a CBLOL morning for me. Now on NACLQ, shout out Supernova for taking the 2-0 over Horizon. Good guys Horizon sandbagging game 2 so we could all go watch the Super Bowl on time.
Oh yeah.
But
or
I know,
we could
right?
watch
It
more
doesn't.
NACL on time. You know what I'm saying? There's CLG versus FlyQuest. That's a pretty good game today, I believe.
That is true. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff to watch all over the place. I know you tweeted about you got 75 games potentially to watch of League of Legends this next week. I mean, we all do. There is so much awesome league happening in NA at the moment. It is just an amazing time to be a fan, I feel like.
I used to be able to watch some LEC, some LCK here and there. That's not happening in 2023.
Nope.
It's just nonstop North America, and that is what we are here to do today. And we're going to continue our coverage here with the NACLQ. Of course, NACL is currently going on the Challengers League stream, which is why we cannot continue coverage over there. But we do got Illinois State University up against LiT Esports. It's an interesting matchup, Hawk. Both these teams lost in a 0-2 fashion, but as we head into the draft for game number 1, a lot of storylines to talk about both of these teams.
There definitely is. And it is important just to get the elephant in the room out of the way. They lost in 0-2 fashion, both pretty convincingly, I think it's fair to say. It wasn't really a close 0-2. Both of them went down pretty hard, but these are two teams that a lot of people have been excited about for different reasons. ISU Redbirds, a team filled with established veterans from top to bottom that have experience at this level of competitive over multiple years. We were talking before the stream. This is now the 3rd year that the core of this roster is playing together at this level, Grapes. Meanwhile, LiT, it is not the same story.
Not the same story, and you can kind of see that as we head into the first ban phase. They got some pocket picks here and there, specifically for their jungler Munchie, who is an 18-year-old jungler who loves to play 2 champions specifically, in Rengar and Master Yi. You see those both taken off the table. Munchie has not been able to pick up Rengar in any one of these games, as it has been banned in every single map. The other pocket pick that we're looking at here for LiT is this Fiora for Livacious, also now 7 for 7 in bans in that first phase.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Tempo Zillion also getting taken off. So no pocket picks this game, but that does leave up a bunch of OPs like Ashe that has been banned on red side around the world in a lot of games because of his power. But that leaves up a lot of other OPs. I'm talking about Malachi Sejuani, the jungle handshake that is so notorious. Heimerdinger is on the board. Varus Heimerdinger could be a 1-2 for ISU should they choose to take it. If we go further down the pool in jungle, we've got things like Vi Wukong. So lots of powerful picks up and available due to the focus that these teams are paying towards these pocket picks.
Yeah, and the bot lane going to be selected early on. I think this makes sense, especially, Hawk. Before we come into this game, we mentioned just to ourselves, so the stream doesn't know just yet, that we're really expecting this to be a top-side focused matchup here in the best of 3. Sajid and Chae, Squilliam, and Tempos both kind of play more supportive picks. We already see the Ashe lock in. Of course, Varus can be super safe. This Ashe actually is a flex as well. Chae has whipped it out multiple times throughout the open qualifier. So just general safe stuff. Gonna get that out of the way early, and I'm expecting solo lanes to be a big factor here on the second phase with counter picks now in play.
It definitely will be. Meslo and Drew Dozer, especially 2 players that last year in the PGCQ scene looked really, really good on different teams. Meslo in particular, I think, impressed a lot of people on Supernova, I believe it was, playing really, really well. But LiT, interestingly, opting not to lock in a support on 3 here, taking the Sylas before ISU could either snap it up themselves or ban it out. It is so good into the Malachi, but that does mean that they are going to sacrifice this bottom lane a little bit. We're already seeing that focus towards solo lanes. But something I do want to mention is if you want to play towards the top side of the map, getting a bottom lane that can win in the isolated 2v2 is really important because then it means that those champions can roam up faster, be first to plays around Herald, for example, and get advantages for the team, Grapes.
Yeah, and that might be a bit of a factor, especially considering we have two poke-heavy bot lane picks already selected in the Ashe and the Varus. The Ashe, of course, as we mentioned, can flex again, so we'll
Yes.
see what strategy ISU look to encounter here as we head into the second phase of bans. Kassadin for ISU is a pretty interesting one, considering that Silas and the Sejuani are already locked in. We know Livacious likes to play a lot of these bruisers like the Fiora, so maybe not expecting that Sejuani to go top, but ISU seems to think that there's something else in the plans of LiT.
I wonder if they're thinking Silas top. That would definitely be an interesting call. I'm
Don't
really
know.
surprised. Again, we're not focusing support pool at all though. Like Lit, meanwhile, they're just gonna ban out things like Lulu. Other strong picks that are currently on the board. Heimerdinger is still up and available. We've got ADC supports that we need to think about as well, Grapes. And if you're Lit, you maybe could go towards something like a melee support, a tank synergizes with that Sejuani alongside the Silas. So there's a lot of options still available for both teams. ISU clearly thinking, I think
Oh, do
that
it.
this is an Ashe support with the Ezreal ban.
I
Respect
spy
Hover.
myself a Tempos Thresh. Could this potentially be the day that we finally get to
There's no
see
way,
the
right?
wonders of solo queue Tempos Thresh in the NACL qualifier scene? I don't think so. It's gonna get locked in. The Lux is gonna be hovered at this point, and oh, we're just getting
Oh
baited,
my
and it's locked.
gosh!
Tempos Thresh. Now you might know about Tempo Zillion. You might be familiar as that pick in solo queue, but Hawk, we got ourselves a very interesting start to this game number one draft.
Tempo's Thresh coming out. I was not expecting this pick at all. And if we're talking about bottom lanes that can win in the 2v2 Grapes, Thresh is not a champion that does that at all. And you can get the Ashe Caitlyn lane for Lit. This is a punishing pick. I gotta be honest with you, I am not sold on this one bit.
I'm just really there's a lot of things being thrown at me at the same time right now with this draft. The Tempos Thresh, I saw a
Ooh.
hover for some other champions that I was not expecting. The Cassante makes a decent amount of sense as a blind top laner. Meslo now has his opportunity to decide what he wants to go with when facing against Dragoon's Cassante. Oh wait, no, that was Livacious actually. Livacious got slammed by the Cassante a couple times. Gonna get that pickup finally to maybe show off
Maybe
what he
he took some
learned.
notes from
Yeah,
Dragoon, you know,
in
like,
that
hey,
last
hey,
matchup.
that guy was pretty good. Let me do that.
And this is actually a matchup that we've seen
Whoa!
pretty often into picks like this Cassante. A Darius getting locked in. This is the the Dragoon group, I would
Yeah.
say potentially, but it's gonna be it's gonna be Darius from Meslo.
Yeah. These top laners, my headphones just died. I hope they come back. But these top laners clearly learning from the Dragoon school of thought with the Darius pick. And as you said, it has actually been a fairly common pick in NACLQ Grapes. We've seen this one thrown down a lot. Now, I do want to say you are playing Dragoon against Ashe Caitlyn Sedge. This is going to be easier said than done for Meslo to get involved in these fights.
I like that you just said a Dragoon instead of a Darius because that's just kind of what we are associating with these two champions in the player nowadays. Darius, I think we'll have a pretty good time to the Cassante, as you said, maybe not against this Caitlyn Ashe, but the compositions have been lined up for game number one. I don't know if you had any additional thoughts about how this composition will operate, but if we did have a little bit of time, I thought maybe it would be a good time to talk about LiT a little bit more because we talked about ISU being pretty experienced. LiT
Right.
a little bit more on the newer side.
Right. I mean, Lit, the composition is very clear. We said this would be a solo lane focused game, but they want to destroy bottom lane with this Caitlyn Ashe. It is going to push, and it is built to take towers. If you can bring the Sejuani down, if you can bring the Silas down, it's going to be very dangerous for the Varus Thresh to contest in the 2 versus 2. But, and there's a big but here, you've got this Darius on the top side.
Yeah,
Not a Dragoon, it's a Darius for Meslo. And
it's a Freudian
if
slip
Darius
by you.
if Darius is left unattended, it can be very scary. But we talked about the difficulty of fighting into Caitlyn and Ashe if they get ahead. So I think bottom lane is going to be the big focus for these two teams, which is that departure from the style. So I think more than anything, I'm looking at which of these teams is able to adjust to the style that this game demands instead of what they are used to, Grapes.
Yeah, again, we mentioned how topside was probably something we were looking at in terms of where these two teams wanted to put their prio. Maybe not as much anymore. Of course, the Varus Thresh is a
Mhm.
pretty interesting lane. Going up against Caitlyn Ash is going to be a very difficult task. And Sajed and Chaye, two very new players. Sajed actually was a jungler for part of last year as well. Made it to the PGCQ spring qualifier number 2 as the jungler for Nameless Randoms. And Chai, this is his first competitive split, first team really that he's ever been able to play on. So some hard tests maybe for these two players, but they're in a situation where if they succeed, the rest of the team will cruise to that game 1 victory.
Yeah, truly. I mean, let's see if they can prop them up. Grapes, you were talking about how young this LiT team is for many of them. This is their first split in the scene or one of their first splits. None of them have been around for that long. I think you were just telling me none of these players are over the age of 20.
None of them can buy a
Grapes.
drink. Yeah.
None of them can buy a drink. They are younger than us, the Zoomer duo of casters. So,
Yes. The official ages, as I have on my sheet right here, Livacious is 20, Munchie is 18, Conveying is 19, and the bot lane of Sajid and Chaye are both 18 years old. So I know some of them are still in high school, some of them maybe in collegiate, as Livacious is currently enrolled at Michigan State University alongside Sajid, who I believe is actually part of or was part of Bay State for a little bit, and Conveying part of Winthrop. So a lot of collegiate, a lot of people that are making their way through the teenage years, entering their 20s a little bit, which is going to be pretty cool against a full collegiate organization. Kind of a mismatch, scrappy mixed group of young players versus a team that has been together for multiple years.
yeah, but let's not understate the talent, though. They may be young, they may be scrappy, but there's a reason that they're here now. And backs against the wall again. This is an elimination match for everyone that doesn't know the format. Loser of this best of 3 is done until the next open qualifier. Winner will go on to face Horizon Gaming, who, I mean, although they did take care of ISU pretty dominantly last week, Supernova just took care of them pretty dominantly today. So
Yeah.
clearly Supernova cut above the competition, but maybe that gives these teams some information about how they potentially could exploit the team in the next round. But of course, you got to get there. You've got to take down the opponent standing in front of you. Is it going to be the young guns of LiT Esports, or is it going to be the established Redbirds?
We're not sure. Like, that's what the best of 3 is going to be about. I think both of us came into this talk expecting this to be a close one,
Yes.
and not really able to decide who we really have favored here, because especially, as both of us were part of the amateur selection committee, when we were discussing both of these teams, they were a lot of these two specifically were pretty hotly
Hot
contested. Some
topic.
people
Yeah.
thought that they were higher in like the 8 to 12 range. Some people thought they were in like the 17 to 20 range. So nobody really knows how to assess these teams. And finally, we're going to see them duke it out to figure out where they really belong.
I mean, even remember ISU, they went 0-2 to start the open qualifier, and then they had the 3-0 day 2. This team, they have been known over the years for just their utter fluctuation and how good they are. Some games, they're going 3 games against IMT AoE. Other series, they're getting destroyed. Like, there's no way to rate them, right? And LiT, again, they're so young, so new. No one knows how to rate these teams. So even though they both kind of went down hard 0-2 last week, right? Like, it's just so hard to rate these teams on any given day.
And I feel like we saw some decent stuff from both of these teams as well. Munchie had a pretty good series against Supernova.
Mhm.
Of course, Hyper was able to take over some of those games, but in the Wukong game that he had specifically in game number 1, Munchie looked pretty good. And also on Redbirds, Meslo had a pretty good Camille game in game 1. And wasn't really able to do much other than kind of just have a good laning phase. But there are these bright spots for all of these teams. I
Yes.
think that they're both set up in pretty decent positions for this first matchup, and we'll see how that goes. Now, before we continue our discussions, because I think that there's a lot of good stuff that we're getting out of this. We have received word that there is a bit of a pause due to a mouse bug from a member of LiT Esports. So we're not entirely sure when that will be resolved, but we'll make sure to get it onto your screens as soon as possible.
Yeah, it happens. All these players, of course, playing from home, not at the LCS studio or anything crazy like that. So pauses are going to happen. As you said yesterday, we're just doing our best LEC impression,
Yeah.
perhaps with the delays. But I mean, great. We got so much to talk about these teams anyway. I feel like we'll be fine. You mentioned a name that we surprisingly haven't brought up too much because it was just like the Sejuani Malachi handshake, but Munchie is a player that has been so highly touted by analysts and GMs and scouts around the
Yeah.
scene as really one of these next great junglers. He's played on our last year on some pretty decent teams, I think it was fair to say, but he was one of the standouts on those teams, and he's a player that is expected to be able to elevate LiT Esports. We'll see how he's able to play around the bot lane, Grapes, and see if LiT can elevate themselves over ISU. We are onto the Rift.
Game number 1, a best of 3 to decide who faces off against Horizon Gaming and keeps their I keep saying PGCQ, their NACLQ season alive. The loser will have to wait until that next OQ, and, you know, will be apart from a couple of crucial qualification points to maybe enter that promotion relegation tournament.
Grapes, isn't it so nice just saying like NACLQ, NACL qualifier, instead of like PGCQ summer number 1, all the letters, say the whole alphabet to announce the
I think
games.
actually we're supposed to call it either NACL or LCS Challengers, so not North American Challengers. So
okay,
that's, I think, what we're looking at here. This is just kind of a pause bug that happened. Shout out to Caddy, who is working our production behind the scenes. We're all doing this kind of just for free, for the love of the game, for the love of League of Legends, and just making sure that we have coverage of all of the matches that we are given here in the qualifiers. And it is very appreciated for everybody who's been helping us out, both on Salty Runback, on Smax's stream, and off Battery stream. Just been a really good experience overall, I think.
Yeah, I mean, everyone that's been on, we appreciate them so much. Again, shout out Caddy and Grapes. It has been so fun doing this, putting this stream together with you. I know I've really enjoyed it. I'm so glad we get to cover these games. I'm like itching to get into this game. I don't know what this new delay is. I'm sure we'll get word.
I'm pretty sure
very soon.
It's the fact that we need a 3-minute delay after the pause is over as well. So just to make sure that nobody is, you know, playing any funny business here. There's no stream sniping or anything like that. We're just gonna make sure that all the competitive integrity is resolved as best as we can, which gives us even more time, Hawk, to talk about some of these players. I love discussing this LiT Esports roster. I know that Redbirds will get into them a little bit more throughout the series, but just the fact that they're kind of just a ragtag group of people. All of them had a whole lot of success in the different tryouts. I know I covered a lot of them in the native gaming tryouts. I called this team belovedly like Native B in a way. When we did our podcast, we called them Team Liquid Faith because of the Team Liquid Challengers. And anyway, but Pukar also is their coach, has had a lot of pretty successful times as a coach, both on Fear and some other teams as well. But yeah, just overall, a lot of really interesting pieces. See how it goes on. I think we're back on the Rift for good this time for game number 1.
And you can see both teams already having a ward up in bottom lane. We've already touched on it, but bottom lane priority is going to be so important. If Tempos and Squillium can find a good level 1 or level 2 fight, they might be able to take control of this lane. But by and large, the range of the Caitlyn Ashe will be devastating. And you can see with the sweeper, this is almost guaranteed lane control going to Sajet and Chei early on.
Looks like it's going to be top side starts for both the junglers. They each know that the bot lane, you know, is going to be actually a relatively important role. Tempos missing out on that first play and sending ISU back in under their tower.
Yeah, and so other things just to talk about, of course, the solo lanes are really important in the series. We're still looking at Livacious, Meslo to be a very explosive matchup, despite the champion matchup that's here. And Meslo will win in isolation, which means that ISU doesn't really need to worry about this lane, and they can commit resources to the bottom side of the map to ensure that LiT isn't able to get going. But one thing I do want to touch on that we largely glossed over in draft is this Ryze against Sylas. Ryze, typically considered to be the best answer or one of the best answers into the Sylas due to its ability to get priority. And if we're looking at these teams to play towards bottom side, bring numbers down there, Drew Dozer having first move on this champion could be very influential, so Munchie's going to try to disrupt.
Yeah, pushing that wave means that you're going to be under threat for a potential gank. The double melees with Sejuani is going to work well. Abscond Abduct will connect, and Conveying and Munchie secure first blood for LiT.
That is absolutely huge. How do you break a controlled mid matchup? Well, you bring your jungler early. Munchie not only gets the kill, but gets the flash. Conveying and him save both of their summoners, and this is a very dangerous lane state.
I don't
GFP
know.
walking
It is
in.
not over just yet. It's just such a strong 2v2. Munchie flashes forward to land the stun, and Convang cannot follow up with the Q. So it will just be some summoners blown. Convang likely gonna have to hop over this wall to try to pick up the rest of this wave.
Yeah, and Conveying will just be able to TP back despite the low health bar. And it's such a big win for LiT early on. They get both the flashes off the mid-jungle 2v2, and they're able to take control. This should give them the ability to try to move first to some of these plays on the bottom side to support Sajed and Chei in their push. You can already see a bit of a CS lead opening up on this bottom side as well.
Yep, Chai does get hit up by a hook, does have to flash. Tempo's going to follow it forward. The all-in for ISU is big, and Redbirds secure the first 2v2 kill down in the bottom lane. Looks like Squilliam does have to be careful, though, as he will flash away. The final headshot from Sajed secures the kill as both junglers arrive to make sure no other blood is shed.
Drew Dozer also walking down, forcing LiT back, but okay, Tempos, I see the Thresh coming out, landing a hook, getting a nice kill. Well done to trade back from Sajed, and it does favor LiT due to the kill going onto their ADC. However, pretty even across the board. It's already been explosive grapes, just 4 minutes in. Meslo has Livacious low.
Let's be careful, though, as now that knockup is available with the Intofo strikes, Meslo has had the ability to create a pretty solid lead. The wave is in a good spot for him to go for a reset here. Livacious will likely have to burn that TP to break the freeze as both top laners go back.
Yeah, most certainly will. But both junglers now, they're just going to clear top to bot. You can see them both hitting up their Gromp and Krugs respectively. And with no summoners on mid, no summoners on junglers, or summoners on bot, they have all of the options in the world. Basically, anywhere they go, there could be a kill, Grapes.
Yeah, and you can already see Munchie and Convang having some good success in that mid lane. Convang, of course, on this Silas, doesn't really like to play these control mages similar to Drew Dozer. This is the picks that he likes, the scrappy melees. We're going to see another engaged right here. The wave is in a really bad spot for Drew Dozer, as Convang will likely just be able to maybe hold this freeze unless he just wants to keep it under his tower and go for a little bit of a bounce.
I think he would have taken too much damage if he held the freeze. Would have been forced to base, and basing second against the Rise isn't good. So just lets it crash. Drew Dozer fortunately able to get the wave in, but Meslo taking control up here on top. Is that a kill? Does the bleed kill?
The bleed, one more tick. Livacious goes down, and Meslo with the solo kill.
Okay, well, there's the isolated 1v1. Meslo starting to take control, and that's without the Noxie and Guillotine Grape. So little bit of pressure on them to continue making plays bottom.
Yeah, they're going to have to look for something with Munchie here. The Lantern out will keep Squilliam safe for now. And you can see, despite the double range in the bottom lane, CS relatively even. The gold relatively even. We are as close as it gets 6 minutes in.
And I want to give a lot of credit to Dozer as well in the mid lane, doing such a great job of not going down further after the disastrous level 2. Meslo just proxying Livacious. Doesn't even need to respect the Cassante. And, I mean, it's really stabilized this game in favor of ISU. You can see how hard it is to actually make a play onto this Varus Thresh without the Ash Arrow being online, without the Glacial Prison. And it's actually ISU that not only are they winning in top, they're the first ones to get onto this Dragon and take control of Bot River.
So despite the first blood going to the mid lane, despite the pushing power of this Caitlyn Ashe, it is the first Dragon secured by ISU. Munchie might not want to let them get away with this, though. Squilliam doesn't have the flash, but another nice Lantern out from the Tempos Thresh. I gotta say, Hawk, we've been hearing the memes. It's actually been performing relatively well here. I
know, yeah. Tempos, y'all were clowning on the pick, but this is like 2 pretty good Lanterns, a good hook. I'm sold. I'm an easy sell, but I'm already sold. Tempos is about to smurf this whole game, Grapes.
That is what we like to see. Of course, Tempos has been with ISU for a few years, had that brief stint on C9 before making that return relatively quickly back to the Redbirds. Also, Nausicaa, part of this squad as well, but looks like ISU doing pretty good with this support intact.
Yeah, truly are. I mean, Thresh, not really a pick I expected to see come out at all today, especially into a lane like Caitlyn Ashe, but credit to Squilliam and Tempos. They're playing the lane really, really well, and GFP not even going to go towards his top camps, knows where the action is, knows that covering bot lane is the thing that matters. But Grace, we do have Herald spawning in about 10 seconds. Sajed and Chei, they have the push and bot, which means they will be able to take first base. Maybe LiT wants to go for a little swapperoonie, try to get Livacious out of a bad lane and get an advantage for themselves. But Meslo, he's got other plans.
He wants to make sure that that Rift Herald is not to be messed with on the side of LiT. Getting Munchie the heck out of there. Going to be forced to just clear out the rest of the camps. ISU not in position to take that objective just yet, but after that, Meslo is going to make sure LiT isn't either.
Dude, Meslo is like the worst kind of top laner in solo queue as a jungler. The one that like gets ahead and then just starts like farming all your camps, running at you in your jungle, just solo denies you everything in top lane. It's horrible. And I mean, credit to Meslo for really taking advantage of the matchup, but oh, I hate it at the same time.
I like to see Meslo succeed, of course, as a MEC caster last year. Got to watch a lot of him in on Grandview University, as a mid laner. And I feel like we saw a lot of untapped potential out of him last split, Hawk. On Supernova, looked like he was able to have some pretty good laning performances. Team never really got off to the right footing, though. And now maybe on ISU is a good opportunity to prove himself again.
And again, hold on, Squilliam.
Forces the flash. Here comes the Glacial Prison. Nice cleanse going to come out, but there's just so much crowd control here. Chai lands the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. The Hail of Blades are going to come through as well. Ace in the hole. Is it enough damage? The final W from Munchie secures the kill. What can Drew Dozer do on the other side? I don't think he can get a lot left here. Meanwhile, on the top side, Meslo actually going to get hit in with the All Out. And that's kind of the power of the K'Sante. You can't push too far in unless you want to get knocked back under the turret.
And it's a good punish for the Herald play by LiT to get a kill, but I mean, as we were sort of saying, Meslo on Supernova, right? That was one of those teams we talked a lot about how, you know, the teams that were sort of in the 6 to 10 range are now the best teams. That was Supernova last year, and so Meslo really having a chance to shine in NACLQ with help from the team.
Libacious doesn't have the ulti, so it's going to be a pretty tough dive to survive, but here comes Conveying, and that's one kill back already onto Tempos, and Meslo now has to run away. The Nature's Grasp stolen away by Conveying is going to lock up the Darius. He hits a little bit of extra healing here with the Decimate. One more knock up here for GFP will keep him alive for now, and now Conveying has a bit of a rough ride out. Dozer has joined the fray, but now Munchie's going to try to make sure that he's able to maybe get out alive. Already picking up Meslo. Now it's a 2v2. GFP has to be careful. The stun's going to connect. GFP is going to go down as a double kill heads the way of Munchie. And now Dozer has to run for the hills as well. Chai is on the way, but I don't think they can do enough damage against this Rise. Conveying going to look for maybe a bit of a miracle chain. The Abduct not really in range just yet. And Dozer is going to be able to get away unless Conveying goes in with another chain. There it is. The Kingslayer will yield Munchie unstoppable.
I think you had it right, Grapes, because that was a doozy of a fight. ISU goes for the dive, but LiT, they had already reset from bot, and they get there in force. The cavalry arrives, and ISU, they are falling behind in game one.
You see the intent from ISU. It's, you know, they're making plays and being proactive. They almost had that dive successfully onto Libacious.
It was a good idea.
They just read him like a book. I mean, the collegiate team got read a little bit there. Conveying and Munchie, you know,
that's a tilter.
That's just some icing on top of the cake as Chai is able to secure a little bit of an extra 100 gold or so. And, you know, despite some of the proactivity, despite the lanes winning for the top side of the map for ISU, it is LiT with a 2K gold lead at 11 minutes.
Okay, Grapes, I just noticed something. First of all, Munchie, the guy we were touting a lot, 5-0. Credit to Munchie. But do you see that item choice? That is an even shroud Sejuani, not a Radiant Virtue or anything like that. That is a new one for me.
It does mean that, you know, extra burst is going to be had if crowd control does land, and with
they want to one-shot
communication with Conveying, things might be going well. We're going to see the crowd control utilized right here. Conveying steals away the Chain of Corruption. Already going to get taken out though, and it will barely be him, you know, going down in that fight. A lot of time was bought by Squilliam and Dozer, but it is still a 3-for-1 in favor of LiT as the Dragon gets started up.
I don't know, man. Maybe Even Shroud is the future. They wanted to one-shot someone, and Squilliam got popped once the Sejuani ult went down. Munchie's just way too big for this team to deal with. Maybe Meslo can penta this.
Oh, big healing, though, coming out from Meslo. He does have the guillotine. It is not. It's going to get that reset. 900 gold into the back pocket of the Darius, but he's not able to get that last Q for the healing onto Chaye. Sajed and the rest of LiT will get the kills and secure the Dragon.
Darius is just so unplayable against Caitlyn Ashe. Like, what are you supposed to do? Okay, get 900 gold. That's pretty good. It was actually worth for Meslo, but still, like, you're just never getting on that back line in a million years. It's so horrible to play against. And LiT, they get the Dragon, they get the kills. They are in a very commanding spot in this game. we've talked about you need to get this Caitlyn Ashe ahead and taking towers. Well, they haven't really taken towers, but they are most certainly ahead. And with the even shroud on that Sejuani, if you're looking to play a pick comp from a lead, that's one way to do it. You just one-shot individual members anytime they roll up to the club. And with your gold advantage, it means that it's so difficult for ISU to win in the ensuing 5v4.
It's so rough for ISU right now. You know, that dragon fight looked like it potentially could have been a good angle. GFP had a nice engage. They're going to look to try to tunnel a little bit of extra gold right now into the bottom lane as the Rift Herald gets started up. I think Sajed and Chai won't be able to really defend this too much, but it's just going to be a couple of plates going the way of ISU once again.
So ISU do have some pretty strong carries. It's just going to be really difficult for them to find a way into this lane. I'm really looking at LiT to make a play towards one of these towers as plates fall off and knock it down. Because what you need to do is get Caitlyn out of this bottom lane and into mid where she can start pressuring the rest of the map. Especially with Herald number 2 going to be spawning somewhat soon. Maybe find a 2v2.
Chain of Corruption gets cleansed away from it. That is just too much damage. The traps, the headshots, the arrows, everything connects as Tempos goes down.
It's a really good target selection as well. Squilliam has the cleanse, so you throw it onto the Thresh, not allowing the Varus to get out of jail free card. Instead, you kill the get out of jail free card. And now, with the 3v2 on the bottom side of the map, this should be that tower that we want at Grapes.
Finally, might open up some opportunities for LiT to push their advantages to other areas. This tower almost certainly to go down. Now Conveying actually going for a little bit of an aggressive play in the ISU jungle. Him and Munchie have kind of been a bit of a menacing duo these last couple of minutes, and they're going to continue their reign of havoc here. Potentially the Nature's Wrath does come out, and Munchie will get hit up by that death sentence, but you just do not want to go into this LiT composition unless they send Meslo in on a one-way trip. He's stuck in a 1v3, but he's going to buy a lot of time. A lot of healing coming out, and now the numbers advantage goes in favor of the Redbirds. Chai will go down first, and ISU might have found the fight that they want. True Dozer's big on the front line, and Meslo is huge on the back. The all-out comes out. Livacious will get one onto the Silas and might not be able to get too much more, but the last in Topho strikes will secure a double kill onto Meslo. Squilliam and Tempos have to run away, and somehow LiT make it a 3-for-3.
Well, it is a 3-for-3 after all of it. LiT just slaps them with their wallet a little bit, perhaps, but that Realm Warp with Meslo going in. Grapes, I think ISU cracked the code to getting out of the Caitlyn Ashe. You just teleport him behind. Nothing personal, kid. That was awesome, even though it didn't really work out for them. And I think critically, LiT still got what they wanted. Even though the fight was messy, they got bot tower, and by dying, they all reset. So now they can set up with Caitlyn in mid lane towards this second Herald and look to start breaking over the open the map even more.
It's a 3,500 gold lead for LiT. Despite the really good angle, again, Meslo was able to get onto the backline. But Sajed didn't die, Livacious didn't die, and those are the two people that you have to watch out for in some of these late game team fights. You know, they're going to be doing a lot of damage, stacking up a lot of HP in the front line. Sajed is 6-0-5, nearing that Infinity Edge at 16.5 minutes. Might get targeted here a bit, though. Does not have the cleanse and is forced to flash away.
That's a pretty big flash blown. If we are talking about Sajed being the big carry, GFP.
Yep, Nachai doesn't have the flash as well. Sajed will give over the shutdown. 1K into the back pocket of Drew Dozer, and they're going to feed him a second as well. The Rise is going to start to scale here as a double comes through. And Munchie will be able to secure the Rift Herald, but now has to run away.
Really nice engage. Instant punish on the flash being down. Sajed gets taken out. They might even get an objective bounty off this tower. That's how much LiT has been controlling this game. Now, Munchie is tanky, so ISU not going to be able to dive the Sejuani. With Conveying coming over, they might actually be forced back.
Yeah, Conveying going to come over as well. It's a 3-man melee trio here for LiT Esports. They're going to go and target GSP as he'll be the sacrificial tree that LiT will chop down.
They're not friends of the forest, LiT. Just poor GFP. Don't they know we have like a tree crisis? They should be planting trees, not cutting them down. Oh, it's very, very sad. Oh, Meslo, arrow. Should be fine. Should be fine as he's just going to get on out of there. Has a lot of tenacity on that Darius. And Grapes, it's been a scrappy one so far. We have seen 27 kills in 18 minutes. It's been almost a kill a minute for LiT. It pretty much has been a kill a minute for LiT. But Dragon now on the map means I feel like we're going to see even more kills in just a minute, Grapes.
And what do we have to watch out for these teams? It is that duo of Munchie and Conveying that have been able to just dive in face first into the ISU composition. And because of that threat, it doesn't look like the Redbirds want to contest this Dragon. It will be 2-1 in favor of LiT as they get the first Ocean of the game.
And now mid tower gets taken out with the Herald as well. They're going to be able to recall, send Caitlyn mid to top. That top tower shouldn't be long for this world. And for as fun as that team fight bot was for ISU, it does feel like their only angle into a fight is something cheeky like the Darius Realm Warp. I don't think there's any way you're going to find a successful engage by just running at this LiT esports composition. I really have liked what they drafted for themselves. It's a very easy composition to execute. Hey, everyone just stand there and throw spells at them as they run at us, and it's worked out so well.
There's some differences here, though, between that last bot lane fight and now. Drew Dozer has 1,300 more gold from 2 big shutdowns that he picked up in the mid lane. We might be able to see that become a factor as the scaling will begin to kind of unravel here for ISU. They have Dozer with the tier stacking as well as the Rod of Ages at 2 out of 10 minutes. When he gets that, maybe approaching level 14 or 15 around the next time that a potential Soul Drake spawns, a front-to-back fight for ISU could be on the table.
It definitely could be. I will say, I mean, the scaling for ISU is good, but I think I favor the scaling for LiT. I think that the tanks are really what I'm looking at against this lethality Varus. Williams' damage is going to start to fall off a lot, and that is going to put a lot of the onus on Meslo. But we've covered the struggles that I think this champion will have later on in the game. Fortunately, Meslo is still controlling the 1v1 in the side, so it is providing a point of pressure for ISU, especially if he's able to knock down this turret and start to be able to move around the map to join the team a little bit faster. As, yeah, I mean, you're winning in the side, but it's just LiT controlling your top side jungle, engaging on a Squilliam.
Oh, that arrow just barely is able to be dodged away from. Nice use of the cleanse. The cleanse on the 80 carries have been very important these past couple of minutes. We've seen repeated usage of that summoner spell to great effect. Top lane going to continue to bully each other out down in the bot lane. And now that we have a little bit of time, Hawk, I want to go back to the point that you're making about the way that these team fights have to go. You know, ISU, they're going to have to be pretty creative. As you mentioned before, the Realm Warp will be a very important tool. But, you know, this is a team that has played together for a while. They are able to communicate pretty well. That might be an opportunity to show that experience might be a little bit better than maybe the raw hands on LiT.
That's true. I mean, experience is always one of those things in League, especially like this level of competitive, that is always so hard to rate. Because these LiT players, as you say, are so incredibly talented. There's not any doubt about that. They're really going to be put to the test of how well they play as a team, how well they understand how to navigate these difficult end game situations. Because while they are most certainly in the lead, they've got objective bounties coming back up for ISU. It's not over, right? And until the game is over, anything can happen. From my time of watching amateur League of Legends, anything can happen, and I cannot stress that enough. So it's up to ISU to make anything happen, make magic happen, find that magical team fight, and it's up to LiT to deny the engage, play together as 5, and not give ISU an angle back in.
Baron is spawned. Next Ocean Dragon will be up in about 1:45. So that's where we're potentially looking for that next fight.
Here we go.
See some engages now again to the bot lane as Munchie has joined here to try and match up against Meslo, but there's the bleed coming out, and the guillotine will shut him down. 600 more into the hands of Meslo, and the redemption comes out as well from Tempos. Meslo diving under the turret, bleeding out is Munchie, and it's a double kill for the Darius. And don't get in there, Chaye. You are just gonna die as well. A triple kill for Meslo as ISU start up the Baron.
Meslo is him, Grapes. That's a 3v1 in bot. The turn comes off the Baron.
And now the setup is so good. The saplings, Drew Dozer, the range here for ISU. Sajid is in big trouble as well. We'll see if GFP can connect here with the twisted advantage. Does have the flash, but Sajid will follow with his. Conveying now on the chase onto the backside as ISU trying to continue the chase, finish off as many kills as they possibly can. GFP finally lands the Q and will shut down the Caitlyn of Sajed. Conveying now has to run away as well, but Drew Dozer is now so big on this backline as well. ISU, do you believe the Redbirds are going to come out on top? They get 5 straight kills.
But LiT, they stopped the Baron despite 5 straight kills. Maybe tier 1 goes down, but Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, it has to be a reset. ISU isn't going to get anything off of that Meslo 3v1. Are you kidding me? Sajed and Conveying delayed for so long. Oh, they're gonna start the Baron? No way. Okay, no,
Okay.
they're just gonna clear vision. They're just
The
gonna clear
resets
vision.
did come out, so that might have been a potential opportunity. But Hawk, this is all of a sudden a much more interesting game. The gold is once more even at about a 1K lead for LiT, which is pretty negligible at this stage in the game.
So, Grapes, nobody has flash except for Munchie. Everybody used it in that extended fight, which means that it's all going to come down to positioning. One misposition could change the course of this game number one. It's ISU with control of the river, but LiT, you have to respect their ability to fog up the top side and threaten the Baron.
Yep, they're going to start up this dragon. It will be secured rather quickly by ISU. No Realm Warp available for Dozer. He can get himself up to the pit with the teleport, but he cannot get the rest of his team there as well. LiT is burning this objective down rather fast. It's about 4K before it ends up going down. Squilliam, can you be the hero with the Empowered W? No. It is locked down and finished off by Munchie in the stolen away.
Realm Warp!
Realm Warp will be able to get LiT away as they will trade the Baron for the second Drake.
LiT does it. They just walk to the Baron. ISU doesn't respect the threat, and they take it. Grapes, we are all of a sudden locked in a great game here. It looked like LiT would run away with it. ISU, they have fought back, but the Baron could just be the advantage that the Young Guns need to close this one out.
I don't think that they're going to be able to close this game on this push. Even if an ace comes through, the death timers are too short. There's too many objectives to finish off in terms of towers. All the tier 2s still stand. But this is a really nice opportunity. You have the Caitlyn Ashe. You are able to potentially really hammer home a siege. And we'll see what objectives LiT will focus here in the next 2 minutes with the Baron intact.
In that siege that you mentioned from this Caitlyn Ashe is going to be so devastating. This is what LiT's composition was built to do. Just sit there and harass you and force you back. And they have a lot of standing gold in these tier 2 towers that they can take. So even though they probably won't be able to end here, I agree with you, they're going to be able to get a lot of gold, which could just give them that game-ending advantage in terms of relative power. But I did want to mention, conveying, Giga Chad went for the Rabadon second after the Rod of Ages. That is awesome. I don't really know if that's optimal, but I am so here for it. Conveying
do damage.
Just wants to murder someone.
Arrow comes flying out. Field goes. Super Bowl Sunday between Squilliam and Tempos. Conveying will steal away the Chain of Corruption as they will look to continue the siege. Tempos gets locked up by the ulti and is taken down by the Silas. It's a 1-for-0 as GFP and Meslo are in the front line looking to save the rest of their base.
And this is exactly how LiT wants to fight. All grouped up with ISU standing in front of them. There's no way in. ISU fortunately recognizes it, only drops Tempos, but the rotation up to top side is coming through. Meslo is hunting.
It's a 4v5
really
still.
much.
Tempos is not up for another 15 seconds. There's a Death Brush set up around the red buff.
So lots of poke.
ISU has to be so careful. The Baron's not up for a while. I don't know why you would necessarily want to go for this fight. The Redbirds will let LiT go back to their base. No significant damage taken to the inhibitor turrets off the Baron.
That is actually a pretty big win, Grapes, for the side of ISU. They thwart the Baron push with the poke and force LiT to take a base. And as you say, not actually that much gained off of this Baron buff. I think they still got it for a little bit longer, but not much. Yeah, one more wave is not enough.
To do it.
And I mean, now we just go back to neutral, one tier 2 tower. So ISU, they have weathered the storm. And I think we're just going to see another fight at this dragon in a minute and a half. Now, what the Baron will allow LiT to do is get set up around that dragon first. They're going to be able to push in these waves really hard and then control ISU's jungle. So it will be up to ISU to try to find a creative way in.
Looks like they're just going to pummel it straight forward. Once again, no Baron intact, but LiT is going to continue the potential siege. Baron not up for another 2.5 minutes, but Dragon will be a big play for either squad. Both mid laners have their Rod of Ages fully stacked. Dozer, though, is 2 levels behind Conveying, who has really had an amazing game in this first matchup of the series.
Drew Dozer has just spent so much time roaming this game that he's not really been sitting in a side lane to farm, playing for the team, which, I mean, I respect that a lot. That is oftentimes considered to be Dozer's playstyle. He's not necessarily going to be the big solo carry. He is more than willing to drop to play for sides, but that does mean that he has fallen behind, as you say, as an engagement.
Now, LiT is playing aggressive. They're going to lock up Dozer here, has to flash away. The Redemption does a whole lot. Conveying actually has the Ignite ticking and has to be careful and will be taken out by the piercing arrow of Squilliam. It is just that 1 kill going over as Dozer will survive.
Dozer taking one for the team right there. That time it's a bullet. Ends up getting away, and it's conveying that ends up dropping. Good guy, supportive Drew Dozer, and it's a nice fight for ISU. Look, LiT wants to fight grouped up, but they go just a little bit too deep, and now that loses them. This dragon setup is going to be ISU first into the River Grapes.
Dang does have the teleport, now has Azonia's Hourglass, so we'll be able to survive if a fight ends up unfolding. But ISU have finally regained positioning. They have regained control. They have regained their confidence to go into the enemy jungle and set up a potential player on the Drake.
So no TP on Dozer or the entirety of ISU. Meanwhile, LiT has double TP and a top wave. Should they want to use it, they might just be able to drop this dragon and push for the base, threaten for an inhibitor, and it looks like that might be the call.
Teleport is used just in the mid lane. Munchie is leading the charge onto the inhibitor turrets. It will maybe be an objective secured
Watch for
by
Realm
LiT,
Warp.
but ISU have to be careful. Dozer has the Realm Warp, and the rest of the Redbirds are just behind the side of LiT. They're going to Realm Warp back.
GFP.
And the inhibitor turret, and GFP is still on the backside waiting for a flank. They got Chaya here with the apprehend, and Meslo slams him down. Now on the backside, another fight. A double kill has been opened up for the Darius. And for Meslo. It's a triple. It's maybe a quadra as well, and Meslo will take over this fight. Teleport going to come through, conveying with the Zanya's Hourglass. Has to get away. Swilliam will go in as well, and it will just be the ace secured for ISU.
GFP on the flank, locks him down, and it's too easy for Meslo to walk up and kill them all. This Darius, I was doubting it in these team fights, but ISU has fought around it beautifully. They are back in this game, and they're going to get a Baron Grapes.
9-4-3 on the recent transfer to ISU. The newest member of the Redbird squad is taking over this game. The Baron will surely be going down. Nobody on LiT is around the area to go for the steal, and a massive influx in this game will send the gold lead right back to the Birds.
I mean, this one has just been seesawing back and forth, and now ISU, they're going to be the ones on the front foot. You thought Meslo was unanswerable before. Well, try him with a Baron Grapes. Nobody will be able to respond to this Darius, and now that puts you in a situation as LiT. Do you send multiple members, and if so, do you put yourselves in a disadvantage in terms of numbers around GFP, where he could just pull the trigger with the Nature's Grasp? This game suddenly just got so damn difficult. We'll see if LiT can come up with a creative way to break the status quo and swing the seesaw back in their favor one more time.
This is game one of a best of three. Both of these teams, you know, got smashed pretty hard in their first round matchup against Horizon and Supernova, but they are making sure that they are coming prepared to not get eliminated at this stage. This is the closest bottom matchup in terms of seed difference, 12 versus 13, and it's looking like it right now on the Rift.
LiT laying the trap.
They might have found out Tempos though. The Baron is in the hands of ISU, and they are going to go for another fight. Convang is taken down instantly, and Dozer is on the backside, making sure that nobody on LiT can get into the fight.
Oh no!
On the backside, or the dunk might be there shortly, but it looks like Livacious will have to flash away. Meslo's looking, searching, trying to find a target, as Livacious will likely be the sacrifice, as ISU will chase him down.
Yeah, Livacious just gonna drop LiT. They lay the trap, but they don't have that one shot anymore, Grapes. Everyone on ISU is too damn tanky, and they get out of it. Munchie had so much gold early on, but that tank Sejuani ain't gonna do a damn against a Darius and a Maokai. ISU bearing down on the inhibitor, bearing down on game number one.
It is just the inhibitor. There was 26 seconds on Livacious, but ISU did not want to flip the end on a 4v5. They will instead make their retreat with an inhibitor as their reward. Dragon will be spawning for them in about 90 seconds, which will give them enough time to prepare for the potential soul.
And Ocean Soul with this composition would be backbreaking for either composition. It feels like both of them want to sustain through a longer, more drawn-out fight, and Ocean Soul is one that is so adept at supporting that sort of playstyle. We were just talking about the tankiness of ISU, their ability to survive the engage. Well, what about once they survive the engage, they get back to full HP? Yeah, that's not very fun.
Nope, not at all. Especially just considering the healing on Darius and Maokai, alongside the Radiant Virtues and the Redemptions and everything else on this ISU team. If they get the soul, would be certainly relatively game-breaking here for LiT. They're going to have to try to find some of the magic that got them that advantage in the beginning of the game. And I don't know if this is going to be the move. Chaye is going to get taken down. Meslo was now on a rampage and will have the ultimate reset. 4v5 for LiT would mean that they likely will either have to fight a disadvantageous position or lose the soul.
I mean, I don't think there's any way that you can fight 4v5 into ISU. We were talking about their struggles with damage. Well, even though it's just an Ashe support, that is a decent a bit of your damage outside of the Caitlyn and the Sylas. So I don't think there's any way you can do this. ISU, they're not even going to go to the soul. They're just going to use these pushing waves and knock down a tower first. Now it's soul time. Che is respawning in about 15, but it's not going to be fast enough. LiT, they're giving it up. They're going to try to flip it around a Baron, around an Elder. They say, this is not the time to go.
What a game this has been. LiT looked like they were firmly in control for the first 15, 20 minutes or so. Got their first Baron of the game, and then ISU was just able to punish a bit of a split decision that LiT made around that dragon. And now it's going to give ISU the soul. Even more healing will be amplified onto them as they are going to wait to find their next opportunity to close out this game.
It was just a game-changing overstay. In the top side, the kill going down onto conveying around the top tier 2 allowed ISU. It started that whole turn of events. ISU gets control over the dragon area, LiT runs it down mid, and then they get punished. And I mean, hey, ISU, I think they're blasting some Lil Nas X. Don't ever say it's over if I'm breathing, because they were still breathing in this game, and they have taken control. Now, LiT has a lot of ways back in. Again, Squilliam's damage will start to fall off in this game. A lot of the eggs are in the Dozer and Meslo basket. And Sajed, 4.5 items, has a stopwatch on this Caitlyn as well, is so strong. I'm looking at his ability to carry, but ISU, they're realm warping forward, and it's a push in mid from LiT.
They're going to take him down in a 1v3. Squilliam is unstoppable. LiT not prepared for the realm warp to send the minions under the tier 2.
No, and LiT, they were pushing mid, but forced to base. I did not expect the speed at which ISU would strike in this game. Now 4v5, there's no play here for LiT, but they want to try to defend.
It is a 4 versus 4 soon. As soon as Livacious will be able to enter the fight, but Dozer just makes it another numbers advantage for ISU. The hook lands on the Tempos, and Livacious has to be careful now. They're going to try to use that ultimate in onto Dozer, but there's just no damage. And there comes Meslo. That's a grown man's move as he picks up the kill and unstoppable onto Sajed. It's a 36-minute game, 48 kills, and I think that ISU is going to take it here in game 1.
Papa Meslo showing the kids at LiT Esports how it's done. The Darius takes over in game 1. It's ISU up 1-0.
This series is going to deliver in every way that we expected. Hawk, LiT had the early game working really well. That mid-jungle 2v2 in Munchie and Conveying was really able to take over that game and, you know, send LiT into what we thought was a pretty winnable position. But then ISU, this is something that we, didn't necessarily mention earlier, but we know about them from time and time again of watching. When they hit that late game, a new level just clicks.
ISU is definitely a team that, we talked about them being impossible to rate, right? They've always had this clutch factor, no matter what. For whatever reason, they've got this clutch factor that you just can't account for. We were talking about the intangibles of experience. Well, ISU, they stayed together. They played as a team. And I mean, truly, it was one mistake from LiT that turned the game in ISU's favor. And ISU, they didn't mess up again the rest of the game. They grouped as 5. They brute forced. They didn't let LiT set up and fire in damage against them. And they were able to steamroll the game.
And they had the team fighting tools. They had the GFP Maokai that was able to set up a lot of these engages. They had, of course, the Rise for Drew Dozer, which scaled up. The Varus Thresh was able to team fight better than the side of LiT. And Meslo, that wild card, was the only real one to really have an advantageous laning phase.
Yeah.
And took over that game.
And I mean, Munchie got going massively on the Sejuani, and Sejuani, a champion that's considered pick ban all around the world right now. But I do wonder, Grapes, is putting probably your best player on the team in LiT on something like a Sej the answer? It's so hard to say because we saw all these pocket picks needing to be banned out. It left OPs like that Sej available that we couldn't ban anymore, and it makes draft a really difficult thing to overcome. So that's something I'm looking at next game. if I'm LiT Esports. But Grapes, I do want to mention something real quick. We talked in the game about how I was pretty sold on Tempo's Thresh. I think if that hook at the end didn't land onto Livacious, I don't think ISU actually would have been able to end right there.
Hmm.
So Tempo's Thresh, baby, getting the game-winning hook. That's all I'm saying.
I'm buying some stocks right now on that pick. We're gonna see if that thresh becomes a big factor later on, or if it's just gonna be what we normally expect out of tempos here. 1-0 in favor of ISU. LiT will try to fight back in game 2 after this. Welcome back to Salty Rumback's coverage of the North American Challengers League qualifiers. GSL Group Stage Day number 4, Grapes and Hawk at you to give you ISU versus LiT. Game number 1, if you missed it, was a pretty good one. Maybe you want to go back and watch some of that VOD a little bit later on. But Hawk, we got game number 2 coming up. ISU dominating it the late stages of that one, and LiT going to try to find an answer here in game 2.
Grapes, I'm going to correct you just a little bit. Meslo dominating in the late stages of that one. Darius just, that was like insane 1v9 performance. I mean, all of ISU came together really well, but that Darius was unstoppable later on. And LiT clearly do not want to blind pick a tank again this series.
You know, Livacious and Meslo was a matchup that I was interested in. They both play fighters. They both are relatively new, have been part of really top tier collegiate organizations. But then we see the Cassante get locked in blind, and you know that Meslo is able to find these matchups. Is a known Riven player. That's how he got his start over
Ooh.
in the amateur space. And so I hope to see something a little bit more spicy this time around. Maybe LiT
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that Darius to be pulled out. But as we head to the draft for game 2 in a couple of minutes, that will be a very interesting topic of conversation because that was where ISU was able to find a single string to grab onto to hold on in that early game.
It feels bad for Livacious too because we're sitting here gushing about how well Meslo played, right? But like honestly, I feel like Livacious played fine in game 1. Like he lost lane, but that's because it was the counter matchup. Was pretty impactful in the mid game team fights. Like I had no issues with how Livacious played the game, and yet his lane opponent's getting the whole spotlight because he had the counter pick and just took over the whole game. Like, hey, that's just how it goes sometimes. But I feel for you, Livacious. Do want to give them a shout out because it was a pretty solid game, all things considered. Just Meslo had a more solid game.
Very maybe more than solid. I mean, I know that ISU likes talking about likes playing Malphite with command attack, so maybe a bit rock solid there up in the
Rock
top
solid.
lane. I hope that we don't see any Malphite in the top lane. I know Dozer
Not
whipped
after
it
that
out
game.
mid lane in one of their games against Horizon. I have a couple of thoughts on that, but I just think that overall, Redbirds, ISU need to play around their solo laners and need to make sure that they are both really big carry threats. We saw how that worked in game number 1. And I hope that they continue that trend in game 2.
Right. I mean, it became clear that even with some of the action in the 2v2 bottom side, in the losing matchup, Squilliam and Tempos, they were gaming, they were chilling, losing gracefully and allowing the rest of the map to try to scale. Now, the rest of the map fell behind too, and that's why LiT found such a good lead in the mid game. But by and large, ISU they were doing what their composition wanted to do. And so I do think that prioritizing these picks and solo lanes will be the answer as we've sort of primed. And for LiT, playing through Sajid and Chai, it worked early, but it didn't work late. So we need to figure something out. And I do want to bring up something I brought up before we went to the break which was find a way to get Munchie on something more carry oriented. Because Sejuani, while it was amazing, like it was a great Sejuani, it felt like it wasn't what LiT needed.
Doesn't look like he's going to get his 2 favorite champions, though, as the bans are going to stay the
Yeah.
same on the ISU side. I would expect a Fiora for Livacious. If it ain't broke, don't fix it for ISU. It seems like that is kind of the name of the game. It's a Zillion once again, the Elise targeting GFP, and the Karma, which again can be played by both Dozer and Tempos. And we'll see if that Fiora gets locked in. Now we have to see now what kind of adjustments LiT want to make if they want to maybe have a bit of a stronger holding in the mid to late game stages of this game.
Interesting. They've identified the Varus as the issue. Che's Ash support, I will say, I was not super impressed with, so this makes a lot of sense. But this is giving Ash to ISU if they should want it, and I think Ash is just a stronger champion right now. So I'm a little concerned about this one for LiT. Other things still on the board. Again, Maokai was picked up by GFP in first rotation last game. I would expect that again. Maokai Ash, notoriously a very, very strong duo at setting up plays. Is all the engage you could ever need. And now LiT, what do you go to? We talked a lot about the Heimer last game. It never came out. That's something that you could play with the Varus. There's also you could put the Varus support if you're really crazy. I don't know.
Now, I know that when you look at Chai's champion pool, a lot of enchanters, things like the Renata, the Karma, things, yeah, stuff like that. The Karma's banned away. I want to see something like a Pike potentially. This is something that he has
Ooh.
played relatively often, is good into this mobile Ash setup. But it looks like for LiT, we're not going to see a support lock in. Instead, just sticking to that 2v2 in the mid jungle that worked well in the early game, and we'll see if it will translate this time around.
This is interesting. I mean, we were literally running back the same draft, except 80 carries have been swapped. That's the only thing. Now there is the flex potential of that Ashe. A Pyke would be really interesting. I think playing Pyke against Maokai and Rise would be really difficult. Also, Ashe generally considered to be pretty okay into Pyke, so I would not really expect to see that one come out. Sona is banned, so yeah, the Enchanter focus is pretty obvious from ISU. Lulu is one that has been considered to be very strong on the current patch. That is up and available. Should LiT maybe be able to take it on 4. But remember, ISU is going to have first pick coming out of this second round of bans. And I would expect them to show what their bot lane is so they can get counter pick for Meslo once again.
And again, the flex works really well, which means for LiT, you can't really ban out the bot laners or the supports. I feel like Squilliam and Tempos both
Right.
would be comfortable with this Ashe pick. And so we're going to instead target Meslo, make sure that he doesn't get any champions that he wants. Interesting to see ISU ban out the Cassante.
Yeah.
We saw how well the Darius was able to perform into it last time. Maybe they're expecting a ban like this and don't want to force that Cassante on 4 to make sure Livacious isn't able to pick it up.
This signals to me maybe ISU wants to just blind pick something like Gnar right here and then counter pick bot lane, but they're hovering the Caitlyn. So honestly, Grapes, I'm really interested to see what's gonna happen. Maybe they were expecting the Darius ban and wanted to remove
Yeah.
what their counter was countering. So that could also make sense. It's just gonna be Caitlyn, so it's a complete trade of the bottom lanes from what we had last game. And I mean, Squilliam and Tempos, despite the losing matchup last time around, I think it's fair to say Grapes played pretty well in the 2v2. Their tower didn't go down until the mid game, which is very good into Caitlyn Ashe. And so we'll see
There it
if they're able
is.
to do something. Oh, okay, there's the bike.
I called it. I did. He played it in game number 2 against Supernova. Uh, you know, they lost, but it's still a champion that I think he has had a lot of comfort on. This has been the one melee support that Chai has been willing to pull out, whether it was in the native gaming tryouts or just in the first couple of games that LiT have played. An Ornn lock-in for Livacious is another tank. And I think that this means that Meslo can pick another fighter to really take advantage of the top side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, LiT are clearly recognizing that ISU has a very long range and a mobile backline composition, so more engage is better. But there's so much damage locked in for ISU, and you're blind picking another tank into Meslo. I mean, did we not see what just happened last game? And I know it's hard to pick around R5, but
Oh,
Olaf is coming out. Okay. The gauntlet has been thrown down. It's another juggernaut for the tank in the tower, the rock in the top lane for Meslo.
I expected the Camille to get locked in. It's a champion that
I did
Meslo has had
too.
a ton of success on. But I'm very excited to see this Olaf pick. It's been played a ton in NACL, notably from Faisal on Cincinnati Fear, has gotten them a lot of success. And Meslo is definitely a player that can pilot this character as well. Performs really, really well, especially, once you hit level 6 and the Ragnarok becomes unlocked. And with the triple melee topside for LiT, they're going to have to run straight into this Olaf, and that is exactly what he wants.
LiT's composition is really awkward to me, Grapes. I'm not really sure what they're supposed to do to win this game because Varus and Silas champions that scale pretty well into the game. But if you're going lethality Varus, it doesn't scale as well. And in general, it's a very slow composition for LiT. They very clearly want to try to lock down somebody and one shot them. But the problem is there's two frontliners for ISU. One of them will never die. The other one will get very angry and not get locked down. I don't think you're ever touching this long range backline of ISU, and that's going to make this game very difficult for LiT to win.
They do have some really nice team fighting pieces. Of course, the Pyke will be able to find picks. The Ornn also will be able to maybe engage fights from a distance. But I think, again, it comes down to this early game, Hawk. You need to have Chai maybe work with Munchie and Conveying on this Sejuani Silas this time around to make sure they get even farther ahead than they did last time around if they want to have a chance to stay alive in this series.
And that's exactly it. Because I think what LiT's composition is going to try to do, whether or not it works, is it's like, all right, we got Pyke. Let's just try to blow up bot lane, right? Or blow up mid lane if we can get Pyke out of lane. And that's it. I think that has to be the plan. Because I think if Pyke doesn't get going, Caitlyn Ashe is going to be way more difficult to deal with in team fights than Pyke Varus. And there's just no other way around that. And so you need to blow up one of these lanes to just really get a strong place into this game where you can play around. Because otherwise, again, like I'm looking at the team fight pieces. Yes, LiT has good ones, but I think ISU has better ones.
They do have a lot of young players on this LiT roster, as we have a couple of minutes to wait for the delay to time out. Maybe gives us some more time to talk about some of them, though, Hawk. Despite the fact that a lot of them are very young, 16, 7, 18, 19, 20 years old, they have all played, most of them, except for Chai, who again is in his first split, have played with a lot of really well-known quantities. You look at Sajid in the bot lane, part of Bay State College in 2021 with Saranak and Bajani, who now currently play on CLG Faith. Livacious on MSU has had some experience, of course, with RBM. Munchie on third party got to play with a lot of really cool names, including Messages and Zamudo. And
Mhm.
Conveying in the mid lane was a part of Vexo Esports, an organization that contained players like Zamudo, Limo, and Pluto. So that was a pretty stacked lineup that kind of dominated UPL for a couple of weeks. So there's a lot of young players, but they've all had experience working with different people now coming together under Coach Pukar. And they're going to have to work out a really nice game plan if they want to come away with this game 2 victory.
And I love that you mentioned that because this LiT team feels like one that even if they go out now and they don't contend at the very top of the table, it feels like they are the kind of team that would see players go on to do amazing things
Yeah.
in the future, whether it's on this roster next split or a next tournament or on different rosters. Like there's clearly so much talent here. And that's what we talked about, experience versus talent. LiT, they've got the talent, the experience at ISU. It feels like it edged out in game number 1, but that's not to say it can't for the rest of the series. And I love that you say that because these really are some exciting players. Again, I've talked a lot about Munchie this series. He was a player that everybody had their eyes on coming to this year. I mean, you said, especially in the native tryouts, like obviously fan is fan. You're not gonna
You're not going to
get
pass
a
up.
get yeah, you're not gonna get the spot over fan, right? But after fan gets taken by native, like who's the next commodity? Munchie was that player for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and now has to leave his coach Taki, they have now split ways. Maybe can potentially find a rematch later on in
It's
a
sad.
potential playoff situation. But uh, the late game was where ISU was really able to take over. I don't know if you remember last year in the spring split when Redbirds was up against like IMT AOE and they just like randomly won games at like the 50-minute mark. I
Yep.
feel like we're seeing that again, and I don't know if it's necessarily just the players or it's the team, the culture, command attack somehow just like willing these games to go the distance, but seems to be a common theme here for ISU.
Yeah, and they've got the tools to do it once again. We are here for game 2, Grapes, and I mean, LiT. I'm waiting for one of these lanes to get lit because they got to blow one up to take a win and force us to a game 3.
Topside, again, going to be very, very interesting to look at. Livacious has decided to stray away from the Fioras, Camille's, Gwen's, Aurelias that got him these tryouts and looks in solo queue, and instead going towards tank play, going for this Ornn and the Cassante. Mesla punished pretty heavily in game 1. We'll see if he punishes in game 2. And it's going to be a very interesting one to look at here. It's going to once again be top side starts for both junglers, as bot lane, again, still remains a priority for both of these teams.
So I do want to cast our minds back to last game, Grapes, where we saw a very early gank from Munchie onto Dozer to get first blood in the flash. Something like that again would potentially be a winning strategy for ISU because we talked about how Ryze will have first move on the Silas to be able to protect Squilliam and Tempos in the bottom lane unless Munchie's able to get pressure down in that one. So I'm looking for that to happen again because on the top side of the map, Meslo was self-sufficient on the Darius last game. The Olaf into the Ornn is going to be even more self-sufficient. You're never killing Olaf with this 2v2. If Sejuani goes up there post 6, Olaf gets a double. So you got to go somewhere else and find an advantage.
Munchie went blue, Gromp, red, mid last game. Looks like the first two parts of that equation are the same as he heads down to his bottom side quadrant to potentially hit level 3 on this next camp. And on the other side, we're again seeing a 3 camp start for GFP as well. So they both want to get onto the map as soon as possible, hit that level 3, and we see a bit of an engage down in the bot lane. Chai already landing a hook onto Squilliam, just going to force a couple of summoners out.
Okay, but getting the summoners off of Squilliam is absolutely huge. Again, we're looking at playmaking on the bottom side, but look at the line of wards that ISU has. Munchie would totally be spotted unless he Arctic Assaults over the Dragon Pit. This is so creative. They might have a gank angle on mid now. Dozer doesn't know.
I think he might try to get spotted now, but Conveying is already here. It's going to be pretty hard for him to get away. Has to use the flash.
Oh, but that's such creative pathing from Munchie. I mean, nothing is lost here whatsoever. Really quick gank mid to get the flash off of the mid laner of Dozer, and now the 2 lanes that you want to attack, if you are lit, don't have that defensive summoner spell up and available. There is threat of a dive potentially with GFP pathing away from this lane, but Munchie will just back off and go farm camps. But Grapes lit already. I love the start in this early game. They might just be able to find a window to attack.
Doesn't look like that window is now, as Conveying will go for a reset. It will just be the bot lane controlled now by ISU as the Rift Scuttlers spawn. GFP gonna get control of that one here, as looks like everybody on LiT is pretty happy with going for these resets. You already see a massive CS lead has opened up for their bot lane after the successful burn of the summoner spells by Chae.
And credit to Sajid and Chai. I mean, I was not expecting this to be that hard of a winning 2v2, but the kill threat from Pyke is substantial enough that Squilliam and Tempos have had to play very respectfully. GFP even forced to cover the shove out from Tempos and Squilliam, and that does mean that Munchie will be able to get ahead on the clear, so small advantages for LiT early on.
And they're going to get the nice crash back in as well. Sajid and Chai going to be able to do well in this laning phase now that they have the threat of potentially just jumping in onto Squilliam. But the question is, Hawk, again, how can we get this Pyke open up onto the map, looking maybe towards mid lane or just maybe going for dive spot? The vision that you were talking about still remains there for ISU.
Well, you might not even need Pyke. Munchie's showing around mid.
Dozer is going to get hit by the knockup, does not have that flash. If Gondam Duck comes through, it's going to happen once, it's going to happen twice. The burn comes out, and Conveying once again secures first blood.
Munchie is just playing so well around mid, Grapes. Game 1 and Game 2, and with GFP being forced down to bottom side to cover any potential play, it means he's going to get ahead in camps as well. They get the kill that they so needed, and now let's see if they can start to exploit this lead into more objectives, more of a lead, and blow open this game. Because again, ISU, they've got great scaling, but this is the start that you need if you're a LiT fan.
You have to, you know, hold those expectations a little bit, though, Hawk, closer to you, because, you know, we saw LiT have a very good early game in game number 1, and ISU always has the ISU factor, where if you hit 30 minutes, the game suddenly might not be in favor of the enemy team anymore. So, have to continue pressing this advantage.
Factor, are we going with that now? The ISU factor is just miraculously winning random late games?
It's not a good name. We're going to have to go for it again.
It's not surviving in mid lane, though.
It's not the ISU factor yet. It's 5 minutes in. Dozer dies for the second time.
I mean, but this is, again, exactly what they need. Meslo on the wrong end of this, or maybe not.
Livacious actually does a pretty decent amount of damage. No Ragnarok available for Meslo just yet. If Livacious hit that Q, maybe could have gone a little bit more aggressive. Dive potentially being set up here by LiT. They have to clear out the rest of this wave. You can see GFP running as fast as he can down to try and defend this. They know that something bad is about to happen. Dozer also headed towards this bot lane. The wave is taking a little bit too long potentially to get underneath the tower, which means that ISU are going to have a 4v4 under their own defensive turret. Munchie is going to get bursted down, and it was just a little bit too telegraphed there for LiT.
Yeah, it's a good punish from ISU. The wave, it just took too long. The timer wasn't quite there. Maybe a little bit of sunk cost fallacy. Squilliam, though.
Now has to be careful on this other side. It's a fight on multiple fronts. Conveying now stuck in a 1v2. Will he be able to get out of this one? Has some healing, has the Conqueror. Flashes over, but GFP will live. Dozer, one more spell flux will do the deed as he picks up a 450 goal shutdown.
Oh, man. LiT, they lose all their pressure in one fell swoop. 2 quick kills answered back. And now LiT, they're in a really difficult position in this game. I mean, they've still got the playmaking tools, but that is so much pressure just being evaporated in this one. But credit to ISU for reading the play and cutting it out.
And Dozer now has 2 kills. You know, he died 2 times to the ganks, but was able to pick up nice opportunities down in the bot lane. This is where ISU was able to get some good opportunities later on, feeding Dozer some shutdowns. We're already seeing it a little bit earlier than game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, getting both those kills, that is just so impactful. I mean, at this point, what I'm looking at is LiT. They've still got the ability to fight around objectives pretty well if they're able to find out individual members.
Ooh.
Herald spawning about 15 seconds. You got to find a way to get Chai out of this lane. And I think you need to attack mid to potentially look at this Herald. But Meslo
might have gone a little bit too far forward. Meslo is in a bit of trouble. Livacious just needs one more brittle block. The Bellows breath secures the solo.
Okay, well, the supposedly winning lane for Meslo, not winning so much anymore. A nice solo kill for Livacious, and Dragon going to be taken by LiT as well. After this Dragon, you can just crash this bottom wave, recall your bottom side as well as your jungler, and probably find a winning Herald fight. ISU, though, might have something to say about it.
I don't think they will have much at this point. The Nature's Grasp stolen away comes out. It will lock down GFP, and he's a little bit dead. The 1 kill will go over. The Chain of Corruption, though. I mean, sorry, the traps, though, will land here on the other side. Dozer will pick up another kill. The nice Realm Warp in, and now Tempo's hit 6. The arrow comes through. Maybe ISU can continue to chase. Dozer continues to flash forward. They are feeding Drew Dozer. He is 4-2.
Drew Dozer is the carry on the Rift right now. He gets ganked twice and said, I took that personally. And now I think he's going to get more revenge on Munchie.
The enemy team may be lit, but Drew Dozer is as well. 420 on the scoreline on the rise. Really having a solid game, surviving the pressure, soaking it all up, and making sure that ISU now has that late game win condition accelerated a little bit earlier.
That's very true. I mean, we saw what we talked so much about Meslo last game, but Drew Dozer was definitely a big-time secondary carry. GFP finding a little bit of a 1v1 onto Livacious, actually forcing the flash.
Each extra dash was canceled by crowd control off of GFP. The problem is that he is a Maokai with not a whole lot of items, which means he doesn't take a lot of damage and might actually go down. No! The turret shots. Livacious will pick up his 2nd straight kill.
GFP is having an interesting game, Grapes. An interesting game is what I'll say, to put it nicely. I respect it. He said 1v1 me, bro, and Livacious said, okay, and took a free kill.
Both times, it's just ISU thinking, oh, you know, Livacious had a pretty rough game last time. We could just bully him. Let's dive him under tower. But you can't really do that if you're Orin. Meslo stepping a little bit too forward, pressing that ultimate, and not able to continue the CC immunity long enough, and then just getting comboed. And GFP kind of just getting a little bit too aggressive as well. And so now, actually, this is posing a bit of a problem, as Livacious will be unlocked in this game.
I feel like that was like what was one of those like what could go wrong Reddit posts. Like, what could go wrong if I 1v1 the enemy top laner as a level 5 Maokai? Like, that was a lot could go wrong, actually. In the grand scheme of things, you know, it's just a kill. It's not the end of the world, and this could just be a kill.
Another nice chain of crowd control. Sajed cannot move a muscle. It is arrow on top of trap, on top of more crowd control. As another kill goes the way of ISU.
It's a good punish on the cleanse being down, and now with GFP potentially moving to this side of the map as well, it could be a reverse of what we saw last game. Potentially just trying to find this bot tower and get Squilliam unlocked. Yeah, the flash getting blown, the Ignite thrown down. Chai is still looking.
We might not be able to win this one here. Yeah, there's a lot of members of the Redbirds underneath the turret, and Chai, 20 HP.
All right.
20 HP, and oh no, here comes
GFP
as well. Yeah, this is actually a little bit scary. Sajed coming over as well. This will at least be some plate damage and extra gold headed the way of Squilliam, as GFP will make sure that they cannot be contested.
Conveying's moving to this bottom side plate. They're going to hold the tower, but yeah, what could go wrong if I 2v1 the enemy bot lane as a support? I think that was what Chai was saying.
Okay, Meslo has the Ragnarok a little bit earlier this time around, which means he is not going to be able to get hit up. He will get the shutdown, but will fall in return. Don't know if that's... You know, the wave's fine. It will shove under... I don't know.
I mean, it's a shutdown. I call that worth the tactical shutdown in from GFP. I get it now. It makes so much sense. He's actually just like 5 parallel universes ahead of us, Grapes.
Another Even Shroud also picked up by Livacious. I guess Pukar really likes this item. Realm Warp's going to come in as ISU going to go for a dive in the bottom lane. Chai still has not backed off of that last play, which means GFP will get an easy pickup as 4 members of the Redbirds head to the bottom side of the map. The trade, though, might be big. The Call of the Forge God will come out and knock up Squilliam. Munchie is almost in range as the arrow gets stolen away and thrown out. Glacial Prison in. Tempos is taken down, and it will just be that 1-for-1.
Okay, but LiT is able to answer back with a kill of their own, and they're going to Herald and bot for Sajed as well. Likely not killing the entire tower as Dozer has TP, but it is at least going to get them some more gold. Grapes, we are in another very back and forth game. It's ISU starting plays. It's LiT answering. It's LiT starting plays. It's ISU answering. 7-7 are the kills. 1 dragon to 0. And the tower gold is pretty even as well. You could not ask for 2 more evenly matched teams.
So 30, what is it, 36 minutes in game number 1, I think. Maybe if we head there again. I will say, I think I like LiT's composition a little bit better than in the late game than last time around, because maybe not necessarily the changes on LiT, but ISU have the Olaf instead of the Darius, and they have this Caitlyn Ashe instead of the Varus, which worked really well for them in that last game. We'll see if Squilliam is able to continue to dish out damage as we get later on. The Dragon will be started up by them. They'll even up the count at 1. It looks like we're just going to play this out the long way again. Oh no. I think he's fine.
He's got the Ragnarok. Kambang just going to walk out in mid, but I mean, LiT's composition, or ISU's composition rather, not as good in the late game. I'll definitely agree with you, but I think LiT, their damage is really going to fall off. Squilliam under threat has flash.
Does have that summoner spell, cleanse as well, but is it enough? Death from below will pick it up, and Squilliam just goes down like that.
And that's going to be bot tower, so actually a pretty big pick right there from LiT. GFP, you got to be careful defending this one, actually able to clear it out. Munchie walking in, and I'll hold that thought that I had about the scaling until later, Grapes.
Yep, I think you might, because maybe LiT doesn't want to scale. They just want to continue to push the aggression, kill tempos once again. The tower belongs to LiT once more. They'll get that first brick and open this gold lead up to about 3K.
Well, okay, so this is actually exactly what I was going to start talking about, which is ISU scaling is worse, but I think LiT scaling is actually pretty garbage just because their damage is really going to fall off. It is an on-hit Varus, so it's better than Lethality Varus later on against this front line, but you've got 2 tanks, a Pyke, and a Sylas. It's really going to be difficult to punch through front line in the later stages of the game unless you can blow up this bottom lane. That's what we talked about in draft, right? Well, LiT, with a nice pick on a Squilliam and getting first brick, has now blown up the lane. Literally, they've killed the tower. They're now 4,000 gold ahead, which is a very substantial lead for 15 minutes into the game. And up until that moment, it felt like they weren't doing it, but now they've got that advantage that they might just be able to use to win the game. Bad Flash from Chase should be out. And ISU, I mean, at this point, I think it really is. We just got to wait for Tier Stack, Roa Stack, all to come online for Dozer and look to play on these late game fights grouped up as 5.
Yeah, this is even more maybe than last game. The Drew Dozer special. Meslo has been fine, but not as dominating as he was on the Darius in game number 1. And this time Dozer has some extra kills, some extra stacks. We'll probably have to dish out a lot of damage, especially towards like the mid to late game portions of this game. LiT though, maybe looking to try and find a play in the top side of the map. GFP will throw out the Nature's Grasp. It locks down Chae on top of the trap as well, and he just has to flash away, not even able to proc that ultimate, but it will be traded right back as Dozer will go down. Meslo on the backside does not have enough damage or HP to pick up any remaining members, and this is LiT's fight to win. They're going to knock up Tempest, force the flash away from him. GFP uses Summoner as well, but LiT is not done. They have every lethal intention to continue to go forward. Tempest goes down, Sajed picks it up, and a nice team fight win. ISU trying to go for the turn.
It's a good engage in top lane, but they just went too deep, Grapes. Meslo's under the tier 1. GFP's in the river. It ends up being a 3-for-1 at the end of it. LiT. Great counter punch. And, I mean, it was what I wanted to see out of LiT. Get everyone out of lane and moving together and force skirmishes. It's actually ISU that forces the skirmish, but they didn't have the item spikes yet. There's no Mythic on your Caitlyn. There is a, 3-stack row up for your Ryze. There's no way in hell you're ever winning that fight.
And maybe if Meslo got a little bit further ahead in that game, didn't give up a couple of those kills to Livacious, might have had a better opportunity to burst through some of the squishier members of LiT, but they had enough damage to just shut him down early enough, and it's a pretty good amount of gold going the way of LiT once again. They're up about 4.5K now. They'll lose a little bit back, but you can see the bounties are intact, which means, Hawk, that this is a pretty substantial lead for them.
Wait, okay, Grapes, I've realized something. I understand why ISU time works, okay? They get objective bounties at like 18 minutes in both these games. They farm the objective bounties. Boom, easy scaling, no problem.
We need a better name for ISU time. Because like
Uh,
rogue time, but like the opposite, right?
right.
It's not. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Yeah, you're
Multiple
right. You're right.
syllables.
It's too many. ISU. I scaled. I scaled you.
We'll brainstorm it and come back.
Yeah, we'll
come
work on
back
it.
in a
We'll
little
work on it.
bit. Hey, we might have a while to figure it out. Is this game, if
true.
the Redbirds want to continue to play to their strengths, might be going a little bit longer.
Yeah, that is very true. And I don't think LiT is that close to winning this game. They're in the driver's seat most certainly, but mid-tier 1 still up. That's probably their next objective. They got Dragon in about 20 seconds as well. Only 1-1 means that Soul win condition is pretty far away. But again, the item spikes still really aren't there for ISU's composition. You got a Caitlyn on just 1 compared to the 2 completed items. For Sajed, a not fully stacked Roa on this Rise, I think ISU would just be better off dropping this Dragon and playing on waves, getting a little bit of gold back into their back pockets. They might even be able to get an objective bounty for Dozer up here on the top side, which, to be honest, I think would be very worth ISU winning out on some of these cross maps, Graves.
It's a little bit of gold at a time. That's all that you need. But we're going to lose this Dragon on the bot side. The objective bounties have now fallen off, so ISU making usage of the bounties on the map to get a little bit of extra gold. But right now, it's still looking good for LiT. If we talk about the gold, you know, Sajed has a full completed item over Squilliam right now. Chae is ahead of Tempos by a very fair margin as well. It's going to take some time for the items to come through.
It will. They're just not quite there yet. But if they can get to I scaled you time, they might just have a chance. And Graves, as the game slows down, I mean, it's been this ISU team. They were another one of those teams that made a couple of group stages last year in the Proving Grounds circuit qualifiers, but they never really found the way to get all the way, right? They never got into quarterfinals. They never even, I think, got up to the upper bracket in the group stage. I think the one time they made groups, they dropped in this elimination match that we are currently watching. And I mean, you know, on the brink of winning, if they can overcome this game, that will mean so much to this program. Another team that's sort of benefiting from the new system.
Tempest gets stunned up by his own arrow, and now another fight. Could it potentially unlock? Rift Herald will get its second proc in onto the tier 2, but Munchie has joined the fray with the Arctic Assault. Call the Forge God lands in onto 3, and Chae will dash forward to pick up Dozer. The main carry for the Redbirds are down. Can Squilliam continue the chase? Chae will flash forward and pick up the kill onto the Caitlyn. GFP will go down as well as LiT find a massive fight. The piercing arrow does not kill Tempos just yet, but Munchie certainly will.
ISU, they try to defend 4v5, but LiT beats them down. I'm sitting here talking about how ISU wants to go on to the next round for the first time. Well, how about LiT? They pull the trigger. They're looking at the Baron. Now, Dozer has teleport in 7 seconds, and Mesla will have his if he's able to get back to base. But this is getting burnt down so fast, Graves. Where LiT may have stumbled in game 1, they are soaring in game 2.
Not going to be a factor here. Nobody will contest the Baron. Now gold lead up to about 6,500.
And now, ISU, last time around, they were able to stall the Baron out. And that was one of the big catalysts to LiT not being able to win the game. This time around, LiT has a bigger lead, and they have blown up those lanes as they needed to. They've got their carries online. Conveying, once again, going Giga Chad, Rabadon second on the Silas. Almost has the Roa fully stacked. Sajed, 3 completed items in this game before anybody else really has 2. They are online and ready to fight now. And unlike last game, Squilliam is so far behind. This Caitlyn is useless. It feels like it is all going to be on Dozer should they try to hold for anything.
We'll get that level up in about a minute as Aroa is nearing its completion of scaling, but might not have enough time to completely reach that late game threshold here, Hawk. The Baron is still intact for LiT, and they are continuing their siege. The waves are in some weird spots in the side lanes, which is maybe not what you want to see out of a team with the Baron at this stage in the game. But they're going to try their best to continue to break open this base and get as many extra objectives as they possibly can.
And they're just taking full control of ISU's jungle. They know they don't want to make the same mistakes as last time. They don't want to overforce before a major neutral objective. They want to take their time, manage their waves, play for these towers, play for the structures. That is what gets you gold. That's what makes progress in this game. I mean, Grapes, we have had 2 incredible games so far. Feels like everything's been at a knife's edge the whole time. LiT, they do have a substantial advantage now, but we know what could happen if ISU finds just one window.
One opportunity will just be, on Dozer. We saw the Realm Warp plays with Meslo in game number 1. If you can get onto Sajet in that back line, could be pretty huge. The fight's already opened up. The Nature's Grasp will lock up 3 as Chai finds a hook onto Meslo. Conveying, though, is chunked to about 40% HP, so we'll probably have to be a more defensive approach for LiT as some resets are going to have to come through.
And ISU, once again, doing a really good job of stifling the Baron push. This time, LiT hasn't gotten any towers, Grapes. So, I mean, for what that's worth, it is a bit of a repeat of game number 1. And it's so tense. It's so tense. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't want LiT to throw again. And I mean, whether or not it's a throw, whether or not it's ISU playing well, they've looked so good, Grapes. And I just want a game 3. Selfishly, I think for the people, we need a game 3. So
it wouldn't do this series justice if it didn't go to a game 3. The back and forth, early versus late, young versus experienced, collegiate versus amateur, all coming together here in this series. The loser, remember, goes home and will only finish with 15 qualification points through the first qualifier. If you want to even have a chance to get into that promotion relegation tournament, you are going to definitely have to perform well here.
Yeah. I mean, remember, it's only 4 teams this time around, Grapes. It's not 10 qualifying for the end of year tournament or the end of split tournament. It's so much fewer, which means you really need to be one of those top tier contenders. And I mean, even though we're sitting in an elimination match in group stage, this is where you can prove, this is where you can take your first step towards being that top tier contender and gunning for one of those NACL slots. But that's a long way away, right? You got to still overcome this one game, which is not anywhere close to over.
And for LiT, of course, this means a lot. These are all players, even Pucar the coach, that have been turned down, been denied these opportunities to maybe make it to some of the higher tier teams, like Native or even into the NACL. And they're going to continue to try and push this aggression forward. Dozer is going to get caught out. Conveying's on a killing spree once again. And these players are all looking for that opportunity again. They want to make sure they don't go down right now.
I mean, and I love that you bring up that point about Pucar, about these players. Pucar was someone that there was drama surrounding it, was going to be the coach for Cincinnati Fear, ends up moving on from him, and he's looking to prove that he can put together a team of players that either don't have as much experience or they're just talented, and bring them together to really contest some of the best that the NACL qualifier has to offer. And I mean, so far, it's so clear, whether or not they win this series, that he has done a great job with this team and these players as well. They have truly come together to look so good, Grapes.
And on the other side, ISU, they are staring down a pretty deep deficit. It's a little bit worse than game number 2. And, this team, amateur doesn't necessarily mean the most. The goal for ISU is to perform well in CLOL, but being able to show up in these opportunities, I know many different amateur, collegiate teams, have said, the point of collegiate is to show that you are able to perform well and get really good opportunities to compete. And you can see that they're making use of it here.
They really are. They most certainly are. But Grapes, I'm kind of surprised we've not seen a kill in like the last 5 minutes. Are we still watching the same series we were watching for the first game and a half? These teams are playing so respectfully. It's weird.
They're just giving us time to build up the narratives, making sure that
it's polite of them, really.
Any team wins well. Yeah. Once either of these teams win,
they heard if they want us to gas them up, they have to not fight for a second, so
calm
we can
down
gas
a little
them
bit.
Up. Yeah.
I do think though, next fight though, Hawk, that Ocean Soul is going to go to LiT in 2 minutes unless ISU has something to say about it.
That's true. It really will. And LiT, they're not making the same mistake that they did last game about overextending onto one side lane. They're just playing on mid waves and controlling jungle. They're not really giving ISU an angle to find a favorable fight. And that was the critical mistake last time around. So it's good growth already from this team. Maybe Pukar took him after the game and was like, all right, sit down. We're going to review what just happened right there. I don't know. But, I mean, it's a good look for LiT. They're playing much more risk-averse, and it's working fine. They've not lost the game this time around. They are 7,000 gold in the lead. I mean, they have a very substantial advantage, and they know that they hold all the cards.
Yeah, they're going to start an engage here. Meslo does still have the Ragnarok, so we'll be able to escape from any crowd control. But the clock is ticking, Hawk. You know that ISU is going to have to pull the trigger soon. All eyes are going to have to be on Dozer. He might be the one targeted here. They forced the flash after the call of the Forge God, and now Meslo is going to have an opportunity to dive in onto the back line. They're going to try and lock down Munchie, but no! Chaye comes through with the death from below. And now it might be enough kills here. GFP picking up a big shutdown. Dozer is still alive. The damage from ISU is still here. The range advantage is getting into their favor, but Sajed will shut them down and flashes forward arrow after arrow after arrow to finish off the Redbirds. They will pick up 4. Only GFP remains, and that might be enough to end game 2.
It's most certainly going to be enough. LiT, they find the fight. Meslo goes in. Meslo gets executed. Death from below. Chaye on the pike. We were sitting here talking about enchanters. No, no, no. We will scrap with you. We will fight you till the end of the series. We're going to game 3, Grapes.
What a matchup this has become. Welcome everybody from Smax's chat, by the way. You are in for a great game 3 in a couple of minutes. LiT takes this match, and they are once again in a do or die. 1 game left.
Wow. I mean, Grapes, we just saw something so similar to game number 1. LiT, they get ahead. They get the first Baron. It's all looking good. In game number 1, they make a critical mistake. ISU punishes and never looks back. In game number 2, they don't make that mistake. No. LiT manages to win. ISU doesn't get that window back in. And now we go to game 3. I mean, are we going to see the same thing again? It is unbelievable how close these teams are playing each other. And all it comes down to is that one mistake in game 1. That is the difference in this series between what we are seeing now and it being done.
It was for a split second there, though, Hawk. I thought it might have become ISU time, I scale you die time for the Redbirds. They almost had the opportunity. You know, Drew Dozer, they had an amazing fight there. They were able to generate a lot of space. But the difference between the compositions that time, the Caitlyn versus the Varus, when that Caitlyn was put too far behind, Sajed was able to flash forward, take out the entirety of that Redbird composition.
I mean, I think what we've learned this series, Grapes, is maybe Munchie doesn't need to be on a carry. The Sejuani has looked amazing in both games. So shout out to LiT not needing the carry from there. But the big thing is there's a target on Dozer's back. That's 1. And 2, I don't think Caitlyn is working because neither team has been able to get enough of a bot lead. And it's sort of what we primed in game 1. I want to bring that back. These aren't bot lane focused teams. We're picking Olaf.
Yeah.
We're picking Darius. Maybe we toss the Caitlyn out the window, something more supportive like the Varus comes into play, or we just put the Ashe on ADC, Ashe and an Enchanter, let bot lane leave them to their own devices. Maybe that's the answer in this game, and we play more towards Meslo. We play more towards conveying, because it seems like that has been the solution for these teams.
It all comes down to one final match, though. Bot, mid, or top. Doesn't matter if your team just pulls away with this victory. It is do or die once again. Winner goes off to face Horizon, and the loser will go home. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with draft for game number 3. Welcome back, everybody, to Salty Runback's coverage of the NACLQ group stage. We know that there's a lot going on. NACL is fully underway. The Super Bowl starts soon, but you need to get your butts in here for one last game between Illinois State University and Lethal Intention Esports. Grapes and Hawk here to bring you the call. This has been a fiery best of three so far, and it all comes to a head right here.
Grapes, this is my Super Bowl. Let's be honest. This is
the real
it's probably
Super
gonna
Bowl.
Yeah, this is the real Super Bowl. This
Just as many viewers,
elimination
too.
match in Group D in NACL qualifiers. This is where you should be because, my God, we have had an insane series. I mean, basically, games 1 and 2 were a carbon copy of each other, but one of them went one way and the other one went the other way. And Grapes, as we get underway in the draft, we're looking at ISU to maybe make some changes. Maybe both teams want to drop the Caitlyn priority, right? But in one of the games, we had Tempo's Thresh. That is the game that ISU won. I mean, all I'm saying is that just might be the secret sauce for ISU is Tempo's Thresh after all this time.
I know he tweeted, "I didn't do anything in that game," but
he sold me, so
they won the game. He had a couple nice hooks. The lanterns, they're throwing them out. What a way to close out this series it would be. But doesn't look like we're gonna target that in the banning phase. Instead, it's the Zillion for Tempos once again. And it's the same 6 bans. All the sides have remained the same for both all 3 games of the series. And we're once again seeing that Varus that worked very well for LiT and Sajed picked up B1.
Come on, Tempos. Don't let my memes be dreams. Pick the Thresh. But in all seriousness, I honestly expect to see Ashe locked in again. I think Ashe is still really good. But as I said before the break, I don't want to see Ashe in the support position, at least not paired with the Caitlyn. Now, Lucianami is something that we've not seen with any presence whatsoever this series, and it is still really strong. However, the issue that I've been having for ISU is they're not a bottom lane focused team. They want to play carries for Meslo. They want to play through him and Dozer. So why not go more utility in the bottom lane? And I think this Lucianami, while it's a different flavor in the bottom lane than what we've seen, it's still not a weak side bottom lane at all. In fact, it's one that's still going to demand resources and try to carry. And that's why I'm just not really sold, Grapes.
Now, Lucian Sona maybe scales a little bit better. That's been something that's been popping up a little bit in the LCS and stuff like that. And Tempos is had a Sona ban against him, I believe, earlier on in this series. So this could be another opportunity. I'm not saying it
It's
will happen
possible.
just yet, but if Lit wants to steal away the Nami in a potential trade situation, maybe that's something that can pop up here. But it will be the same junglers locked in 3 games in a row. Maokai versus Sejuani. Munchie has gotten the better end of the early games both times. And, alongside a potential conveying Silas once more, that could be another really big thing we have to look at in this early game.
Yeah, Munchie's been very impressive, and now it's just going to be the Ash Varus. This is the other issue with giving up Ash and not taking it for yourselves. I think ISU, they're actually in a bit of a hole right here. I mean, you have to pick Nami unless it's Sona. We saw Sona banned out last game, I believe, by ISU in the second round of bans. They're thinking about this one quite a bit. But assuming it's a Nami, that's going to give ISU a lot of mid game, but LiT a lot of scaling, a lot of poke with the Varus Ash. It's probably going to be lethality Varus. They're going to play for the mid game one shots. And what does that mean if you're LiT moving later into the game? Well, power pick's still been available. Silas ends up getting removed this time.
Yeah.
It was picked on 3 both times by LiT. They're not going to let that one go over a conveying. Going to be forced onto something else. Other things that are strong, something like Azir or Victor could be really good for LiT Esports just to control zones. Again, play at range. Syndra as well might sort of fit that bill and is a very safe blind. I'm expecting LiT to get counterpick in mid lane for conveying. I don't think there's any way in hell, based on how the series has gone, that we're not counterpicking for Meslo. I think he is the
Yeah.
X factor for ISU. And with the mid lane bans getting removed, lots of mage counters, I'm expecting blind mage for Drew Dozer.
Now, here's an interesting fact about conveying. I know that it might not seem this way because he has played Silas 2 games in a row, but this guy has a champion ocean. 32 games recorded on Leaguepedia, 22 different champions. And it's not stuff like the
Damn,
Oriana,
that's
the
a lot.
Ari, the Syndra, the Rise. It is all weird stuff. The Silas is a really big pickup for him. He's played the Tristana, the Aurelia, things like this. You can see the Kassadin also taken away. So we're not going to see a standard control mage versus control mage. At least I very highly doubt it. And we'll see if what Dozer decides to lock in. That Rise is still up.
So Tristana is actually a really interesting pick that's been cropping up in competitive metas around the world, and it's good into Oriana, and triple ADC with Sejuani could actually be a really good setup for LiT Esports in
Oh,
this game.
what is this?
I'm actually very interested in that pick. Now, this would be showing me Varus Flex, which is not something I considered. Varus great into control mages because of his ability to one-shot them with the Chains of Corruption later on into the
No.
game. Okay, we're not gonna do that.
You don't talk about
It
the hovers. We know that
I
the
know,
Sona
I
was
know.
something
I
we
got baited.
discussed.
I got baited. I'm sorry. I got baited. It is just gonna be Syndra, so sort of what we expected. Just very strong control mage that can play at range and look to fire in. But Graves, we've seen tanks so far for Livacious in the top lane. Is it going to be a third blind pick tank in a row? And if so, what does Meslo play? Because again, I think this player is the X factor. I need Meslo on a carry. I don't think we go tank for tank here. What's it gonna be?
Aurelia is up. Camille is up. Riven is up. Gwen is up. A lot of these picks that could go well for Meslo. This is why you leave him
Gwen's
on that
good.
R5. I think Gwen might be a little bit too much magic damage, which is why we are potentially seeing a Camille lock here for ISU. Going to be a very standard but good matchup into this Cassante and gives Meslo a lot of carry potential, especially when it comes to those team fights and locking down this immobile bot lane of the Ash Varus.
Yeah, you're right about the damage profile, Grapes. Gwen would have been nice, but you can't with quadruple magic damage coming through. So Camille does make a lot more sense. Now, it's going to give ISU a lot of backline access. The problem is that LiT has a tremendous amount of disengage here, and diving in on this Ash Varus is actually going to be really risky because of your ability to just get removed and taken down by CC. But Camille, very good into the Cassante. We've seen it in other leagues. We've seen it in NACL, how Camille can take over games and against Cassante and be so difficult to deal with in the side lane. Likewise, it's amazing to Syndra because of your ability to dodge the unleashed power with the Hextech ultimatum. So if we're ISU, again, looking at this isolated winning 1v1 to try to get going for Meslo, maybe we don't die diving tower so early on this game, right? And scale up to be that big threat. And it's going to once more for the third game in a row come down to who gets priority in the mid lane, who gets priority in the bottom lane, who gets control of the river to control the pace of the game.
And here's the one thing I might be a little bit worried about here for LiT as we await for the delay to unfold in game 3 to begin. Munchie is on Sejuani for the third time in a row. However, not with the conveying Silas. You know, with Sejuani's, you like
It's
to have
true.
melee picks in your solo lanes. Of course, you have the Cassante up top, and that's, will be able to stack pretty well. But we've seen Munchie and Conveying work really well together in mid jungle 2v2. And with
Yeah.
this ranged mid laner against Dozer, might be a little bit harder to achieve that goal.
Yeah, that is very true. Now, the gank threat in mid lane, though, is still substantial, right? You've got Syndra, Sejuani. That's a lot of CC. That's a lot of damage coming through from these champions. But it is not that Silas, as you say. The counterpoint, though, is that Syndra will, in the 1v1, have more immediate priority over this Oriana than the Silas had against the Rise. And that might allow Munchie to not actually have to pay attention to mid lane that much and just move with conveying anyway. So we'll kind of have to see how that one plays out because I'm expecting ISU's lanes to actually suffer early on in the game unless they can get assistance from GFP. Because even with the strong Lucian Nami bottom lane, Sajet and Chai should be able to get early push on the wave as long as they don't take a really bad level 1 trade.
That is true. It'll help Conveying get around the map a little bit easier, which is maybe a little bit of what we saw struggling for LiT in the mid game. Conveying was able to do well in mid, but wasn't able to translate that advantage until later on into the game. And so having a little bit of a better push against Dozer could be impressive and to see. And just the pure range that LiT has as well in their composition. If you're not just counting the Munchie throw out the ultimate from really far away. Just like having this triple range bot side that is able to engage and start fights from really far away
Right.
works really well into ISU's composition.
Right, and it's going to be so dangerous for ISU. I'm looking at how they're able to divide up the map and not have to fight just straight up 5-on-5. They've got so much pick potential as well. Lucian on mid waves, we can see how he can chunk people out, one shot them. Camille again on the side. They've got things going for them, but LiT, I mean, pure ease of execution, I think their composition has it. It's going to come down to ISU being able to outplay. So we'll see if they can go for the I scaled you die strategy or if LiT can come up with another really great early mid game and and manage to take this game 3.
I like the I scale you die, but it's just like the ISU and then like the D is nowhere
I
in there.
know.
The R, if there's we could incorporate like red, I see you, I scale you, red, blood, something. I don't. If anyone in the chat has any suggestions for us, we'd love to hear it. I could have
I
a
don't know
really
about
nice,
that one. I
fun
don't know about
call
that one,
at
Grapes.
the end. It's ISU time. I mean, huh, I don't know. We have a couple of minutes. There's another pause before we get into game, so just give us some time to brainstorm this one out a little bit.
I do want to point out, I was reading Twitch chat, and Takimon says conveying is best Syndra on server on Fort for ISU.
Hmm.
So we got some hype coming in for conveying Syndra. And again, in favorable matchup with how well Munchie's played around mid, I would be worried. I'd be sweating if I'm ISU.
I'll do a quick Leakpedia check right now because I know that he had a couple of control mages, but most of it was like stuff like Talia and like Cho'Gath and Malphite and stuff like that. Okay, 4 games of Syndra in his competitive career is 1-3. But of course, he's played on teams like scouting for like teams that are a little bit lower level, either in proving grounds or just like UPL teams. So this is
Right.
not necessarily a place where you can look at record necessarily to garner strength. Um, but
That
is
is
one of the
tough though.
champions
One
that he
one
has
and three
played
is a
the
little
most.
tough.
It's a small sample size. It's gonna
Yes.
balance itself out. Hey, maybe
It's
he'll
not a sample size greater than 30, so we can't assume a normal distribution. Is that how that works? I took
right.
statistics.
I'm in stats right now, and I think that's how it works.
I
Probably.
also just took stats.
um, do
I
or
put off
die.
math for so long. Can you tell I'm not a math person at all? I don't know.
Yeah, I make sure that everyone knows that I'm not a math person every time that anything comes up when we're discussing these games. Some people can just like calculate these like base stats and stuff in their head. I need some time. I need to like really look into it, pull out my
I
Excel
know.
spreadsheets and things like that. Um,
Grapes, I just gotta say, it's a travesty that we can't have yelling at video games as a class at our universities. I would take that in a heartbeat. I think I'd be much better suited to
I'd be
that
pretty
one
good
than
at that.
stats,
Yeah.
personally.
uh, I mean, it's been cool to see this mix of collegiate, both here on the caster desk and also on the players that we see right here. ISU has all collegiate students. They're of course on the collegiate team. On LiT as well. They have Livacious currently on MSU. Conveying is part of Winthrop, and Sajed, part of Bay State at least a couple of years ago. So you see the kind of difference in what an approach between full collegiate teams coming up on the ISU side, and then on Lit, having people that do collegiate on the side a little bit, but are also able to come together and play some other games together in an amateur team.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, oh, Grapes, I can only anticipate this game so much. Like, these teams have held nothing back over the course of this series. I'm sure we're getting close to this game. And what should we do to kill the time? Like, I don't know. We should like play a game. What game can we play, Grapes?
Where guess Munchie's jungle path again, because he's done
Ooh,
blue, Gromp, red twice now. Same
twice.
jungle matchup, but now a different mid laner in the pool. Are we going to see the same thing? I know you're a jungler yourself, so might have some insight on this one.
All right, all right. Yeah, you're really putting me on the spot, testing my game knowledge here.
Let's
So,
guess. Let's
so yeah,
guess.
just to recap for everyone, like you said, Munchie did blue gromp red twice, but last game what he did that was very clever is he spotted the wards that ISU had down defending Dozer and was able to path around them by dashing over Dragon Wall, which was very smart, got them a kill. Or flash, and then they got a kill later. So, I mean, I would think if I'm Munchie, I don't see any reason not to attack Dozer again after a 3 camp, because what we've seen is that GFP has not had the answer so far, right? So why not? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Even if you get spotted, even if they might know you're coming, there's no way you can cover every angle. You could just go blue gromp red buff. That gives you so many options. If you don't go for the gank, you could just go farm your Raptors, farm your Krugs, gank bot. But if there's an angle on mid, Lit has gotten so much of an advantage over the course of this series by not allowing Dozer to roam around and influence the map the way that he has wanted to and getting Conveying out early. As you said earlier, Conveying and Munchie, they've sort of been the big catalyst for this team. So we'll see if in game number 3 they can do it again.
Got a 5-stack for Lit to open up this third matchup. Gonna get that extra prio in the bottom side of the map. Clearing out that ward means that Sajid and Chai will be able to really rain in Hellfire onto Squilliam and Tempos. This Lucian Nami works well in the duels, but will get poked out because of its shorter range.
It definitely will, and I love that 5-stack from Lit to ensure that ISU can't get up into that furthest bush and zone them off the level 1 wave. That's how you beat these sort of Ashe Varus lanes as Lucian Nami, is you force them to have to walk up to the wave level 1 through you and get a really nice trade, and that gives you pressure on that. So good job from Lit not to allow that to happen, and that means they'll be able to start in a neutral position. Chai as well with the carry attack of Barrier, Hail of Blades. What you do, level 1, you walk up, you Hail of Blades auto, you barrier all the damage, and boom, enemies at 50%, you're at 100%. It's a health advantage, and you got control of the wave. He's just gonna walk up, watch.
No barrier just yet. We'll use it right now. Actually, forcing a cleanse already. The health advantage, we'll say, kind of favoring ISU. Chai is about half HP despite starting off that trade. But overall, they will gain that lane priority, which is, again, I think part of the goal here with that level 1.
Well, but Sajed was completely full, right? Took no damage on that, and as you say, they get control of that wave. So even though it's not great for Chai, GFP, though, wants to kill them.
Red buff straight to bot. We don't even have to care about Munchie's pathing. We might have to worry about ISU's. Chai does have the flash, has to use it, but the Twisted Advance will follow him straight to his grave. First blood to ISU.
All right, GFP, after getting dunked on by the 3 camp ganks 2 games in a row, he's like, all right, Munchie, I've had enough. I'm going for the 2 camp gank. I'm going to do it even faster. Really nicely done, and the kill went to Squilliam Grapes.
Yeah, he will be able to get that back canceled, though. Munchie, hey, he did go for the same path. I think you're correct on this one. Get an A+ on this test, and so will Sajed as he evens up the kill score at 1.
All right, well, pretty big counter gank from Munchie right there to even it up. The interrupt on Squilliam's base is very impactful. Not really sure how he ended up in that position, but now Munchie is even going to be able to walk in at GFP, so it is a different look from game 1. It's a more even look than game 1, but Munchie is on the prowl. GFP still only level 2 because of the time committed bot.
Yeah, I don't think he's actually going to be able to finish off that Gromp. It's just going to be restarted again by GFP. Squilliam is still level 1, which means that actually Munchie can continue to bully here in the enemy jungle. Gonna land that Arctic Assault.
GP's
Both
dead.
have double buffs, and that's just a kill in solo fashion for Munchie. Doesn't matter what you're on a tank, on a fighter, on Master Yi, Sejuani's still going to take over this game.
I feel so bad for GFP. Makes such a nice play for his bot lane. Oh, Meslo. Oh, no. That's bad. That's really bad. I mean, hey, that's really good for Livacious, but Meslo does the exact... Grapes, we saw this in game 2. Just takes a random tower shot and dies. I mean, you can't be doing that in these critical games, and GFP as well makes a nice play for bot lane. It gets evened up, and then level 2 wants to get the Gromp at level 3, but you just can't. You're not able to stand there and fight. And a great punish from Munchie, and now this early game, I feel like even faster than the first couple of games, Grapes, has gone so far the way of LiT, because not only is the bot jungle top matchup all of a sudden not in their favor, Conveying has had perma pressure on Dozer in this mid matchup.
Yeah, got a pretty easy reset as well. Was able to pick up a Dark Seal and a Tear without even burning that teleport. And GFP in a bit of a rough spot right now. You know, you go for the flip, of course, level 2, red buff straight down to punish for first blood. But Munchie was able to read it well, able to really capitalize on the rest of the plays going the way of LiT. And that doesn't even account for this top lane matchup, which is now very strongly going the way of Lethal Intention. Meslo is chunked down to half HP.
Oh, Livacious with the Sheen just beating on Meslo, and now Munchie can just full clear to bot, look to counter GFP, and with the individual advantage that he does have, I mean, there's no way for GFP to get in. That river highway, as it is so often called, down through mid and bot is just littered with blue wards. Maybe there's an opportunity for GFP to sneak into a lane gank as this crash comes through from Sajet, or from Squilliam and Tempos rather, but that is a huge maybe, and maybes don't exactly give winning positions in League of Legends, Graves.
At least not all the time. And so we're going to have to see if maybe ISU can get a little bit lucky, or we'll be able to really just hold the line and go to their normal status of the late game carries. But Livacious doesn't want to get that onto Meslo. He has the ultimate advantage, and he's just going to get a second straight solo kill.
Livacious is starting to take over. Meslo was the hero in game 1, but in game number 3, it is not his. GFP, though, creative pathing.
I mean, ISU, they now have to just fully commit to the bot lane, but their bot lane is dying first. Squilliam goes down in the fight. They will get the trade onto Chive, and now Munchie is here in the 2v2. Tempos only has the summoner spells, not really a ton of damage to try and fight back. And Lethal Intention will once again get that priority around the bot line.
It's a 1-for-1 where the jungler shows up. Munchie isn't able to finish the dragon. Dozer.
One more auto to Conveying. I don't think he has the range. One command attack. There it is.
Oh!
Okay, that's really big. Getting Drew Dozer ahead will be important. He's going to be able to get away, get back to base safely.
Yeah, Grapes, I'm not going to lie. I think if that didn't happen, this game would be, like, dare I say, pretty doomed for ISU because their side lanes would just be in shambles. Drew Dozer now has to be the hero. He tried to be it in game number 2. Couldn't quite do it on the Rise. Solo kill on the Orianna. That's going to break up the flow of this game so much, too, because if Dozer can not only get gold for himself, but start to get shove in this mid matchup, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for LiT to extend their side lane advantages. And it will give ISU a window back into this game. Now what I'm looking at is GFP, we need to hit level 6, and we got to go mid. Punish that flash being down on Syndra. Let's keep funneling some gold under Orianna and create that pressure point we so desperately need.
Try to create movements around the map. Squilliam down in CS, but is still going to go aggressive on the play. Sajet flashes forward in front of the bubble to try and continue to lay the damage down. And now Munchie and Conveying are here. There is no teleports available on ISU's side. Their bot lane is about to get dove potentially. Dozer has made his way over. You remember how Lethal Intention made a bit of a mistake last time, sticking around too much for the dive. And it looks like the Redbirds are going to remain safe for now.
Grapes, I am so impressed with how LiT is learning this series from their mistakes. First, it's the mistake after Baron. This time, it's the mistake on the bottom lane dive. They still get plates. It's still advantageous for them.
Oh, Livacious. Meslo is... Oh, he's just dead. He's not even going to burn the ulti. It's just... That's bad. Very bad.
It's bad. It's amazing for LiT though. I mean, the lane that's not supposed to win is winning. The bottom lane is winning too. Sajed picks up another one. GFP is just watching his lanes die. I don't know what you're supposed to do. As is Maokai, you're still level 5 at 8.5 minutes. This is a really terrible game state for ISU in game number 3, Grapes.
We've seen the Redbirds pull off miracles down 10,000 gold, but I don't know if it's going to look too much better here. Their only hope potentially is Drew Dozer. Going to pick up another solo kill onto Conveying, but even he might be punished here as Sajid and Chai have roamed back mid.
Dozer is the last hope of ISU. There is no doubt about that. When the side lanes are up in flames, who are you going to call? Drew Dozer. That's right, because this guy, 2-0 on the Orianna, maybe down CS, but I mean, this is what I'm looking for. This is who has to be the carry. Conveying still not going to have flash for another minute and a half or so. I'm still looking if ISU can look to punish that for any sort of major objective. Lucianami, even from behind, can skirmish somewhat effectively. They're 1,000 gold behind, though. I don't know, Grapes. It's so difficult. They're actually going to swap Conveying to bot out of the matchup.
And you really need this William disconnector to get going here. Top lane, again, just looks so hard for Meslo. Just getting bullied. Full Iceborne Gauntlet compared to just the Sheen and the Longsword on the other side. Means that it's going to be very hard for ISU to maneuver on this top side of the map. You can already see the Rift Herald going the way of LiT because of it. Munchie will now have another opportunity to influence part of the map.
And LiT's doing everything right now. They know that they're strong, so they're going to just move as a group, not allow ISU to have a numbers advantage anywhere on the map. If the team that's down can't get a numbers advantage, they can't get a positive play. They answer back with a bit of gold in bot, but it's nothing compared to what this Herald will get them. They can get bot tower with it. It's at only 3 plates. They could get top tower with just the charge off of the bat. GFP going to try to cross map onto Livacious.
Does pop the ulti, but right in the arms of GFP. I don't think that the Cassante dies here, though. There's just too much damage with the all-out. Livacious is 5-0, picking up a double kill in the 2v1.
Oh my, okay, wait, cross map though. Squillian gets a kill.
He's one back. Munchie will be here to respond for this second one here. The 1-for-1. Oh, the flash ulti comes out as well. Munchie was really looking for that.
But this is it for LiT. Again, don't give numbers advantages where you can't afford them. Clearly, they can afford them in top when you're 3 levels up. This tower is going to die. I don't know if Meslo can save this. Oh, he actually does.
You maybe can try to find something here. There's no ulti on Livacious. Meslo has his, but the knockup is going to get dodged away from Meslo. Just really struggling in this game. 0-4. This is not what you saved your R5 counter pick for here, Hawk. You wanted to have some sort of advantage on the top side of the map, and instead you have losing side lanes all around.
And now GFP getting Dovon in mid as well. It's just LiT. They're moving as a unit. They're not giving the angle.
Oh no, he didn't even get a chance to back. It's another kill. Livacious, don't do it to him, man.
I mean, Meslo's just trying everything to salvage it, but you're just so far down. There's nothing to be done. Now, 4,000 gold is the lead for LiT at just 11 minutes. They're going to get first tower solo onto this Cassante. They still have the Herald to knock down either mid or bot. Grapes might realistically be able to get mid tower and bot tower before plates fall. If you just move members mid off this reset, drop the Herald, kill that one, move bot, look to dive bot. I don't think ISU can counter the play without teleports on either of their solo laners. Livacious has room to move with them as 5, and Grapes
bought a full Force of Nature.
Yeah.
He was at a Ruby Crystal, bought a full completed second item at 12
minutes. 2
items.
items at 12 minutes. All right, it's Copen time. Are you ready for this?
We can't kill this guy. He's unkillable.
I just took a big huff of copium, all right? Maybe there's a world, right, where Meslo, once he gets like Sunder and Ravenous, he does outscale in the one-on-one. Maybe that happens at some point this game, and he's able to beat Livacious one-on-one.
Yeah, by then
you've
Livacious
got this
has
strong
5
Orianna.
items. It's just 5 items versus that's not. I don't know if the math works out here. I know we were not very good at it as we talked about.
Right.
But
sorry, great. I think you need some of this. Take this copium.
Okay.
You're not seeing what I'm seeing.
You know, I actually can't see an angle where Veslo might be able to win out here. Yeah, two
Yeah,
items.
Camille
We're getting
theoretically
yeah.
outscales in the one-on-one, right? Like, totally
Full
happens.
Caulfields already. You know, 2 components versus 2 full items. We're getting there right
Yeah.
now. Squilliam, yep, half HP on the Munchie as well. We're almost there. We're almost there.
Look,
ISU time. We gotta
double
hold out
items,
hope. But oh no,
Dozer.
oh no, Dozer. Okay, it's
If
fine.
double items means double damage, right? Once Squilliam gets 2 items, Munchie, who got taken to half HP, next time dies.
Oh!
That's math. Oh! I love how we're just talking like total cope while LiT is just like steamrolling the map entirely. GFP's dead too.
Oh no, it's just disaster. Livacious is 2 full items stacked up with the Force of Nature, and it's just gonna be so hard to move this Cassante, whether or not there is the ultimate or not. It is an 8,000 gold lead at 14 minutes, and LiT looks like they're about ready to face off against Horizon next week.
Yeah, LiT does not want to get lit with us on this copium. They are shutting us down as, I mean, reasonably so. They are playing a great game, Graves. GFP gets caught out by the Chains of Corruption. He will die. And with Dragon going down as well, they're 10 minutes off of Soul. Squilliam and Tempo's going in.
We need a fight here if you are ISU, but
Gosh.
Squilliam is just going a little bit too far forward once again. Shockwave only landing in onto 1. The Glacial Prison will come out. Dozer will go down again before picking up 1 singular shutdown. Tempo's stuck in a 1v3. It's a quadra kill for Sajed, and LiT is up 16-6 and are well on their way for this series victory.
Sajid has been kind of smurfing it this series. I'm not going to lie. Like, we've not talked a lot about him. We've talked a lot about Munchie and Conveying, but, I mean, for the 3rd game in a row, has just a massive bottom lane lead. Him and Chae have been able to get the better of Squilliam and Tempos so far in the series. Meslo able to hookshot away. Maybe will die, maybe won't, but he's just going to die, isn't he?
0-5-0-6 is now the score. Really good stuff.
Oof.
I mean, I think we said it a little bit while we were discussing the draft and just the series as a whole, Hawk. LiT has been learning in all 3 of the games.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team of young players. They have made significant adjustments between the games. They fixed mistakes and have gone from dropping that game 1 to dominating this game 3.
They really have, and I'm so impressed with how they've learned, whether or not it's coach diff, player diff, or whatever. Livacious, he's dead. He's got to be dead.
And we kill Livacious. Oh, the arrow comes out. Drew Dozer might be in a bit of trouble. Here comes Munchie.
kill him, right?
Nobody can touch Livacious. My God, he is legendary on the Cassante. And it looks like Munchie is looking for more. The Intofos come through once again, and Meslo is here to try and find some sort of DPS, but the Cassante is too big. GFP just bursted down to the floor. Finally, the shit does come through, but it's on Tempos, the worst possible member. And this is just disaster after disaster for ISU.
Okay, wait, sorry. I need to... That's another... Tempos with that 1,000 gold could get Mandate and win the game, Cope. Yes.
Maybe it would have been nice on the Squilliam there.
Squilliam is just... Squilliam is just sending it on a side jet, dude. Like, I don't even know.
We're trying. We're trying our best here. Your ISU.
I respect the attempt.
The attempts have been there. The damage has not so far here for ISU and for the bot lane there. Can you imagine? This is the first game the Redbirds got first blood, and it doesn't matter. They are just getting even more destroyed. Maybe a desperation attempt here from Meslo. Nice hook shot in. Will take down Conveying. And I know it's an 11,000 gold lead, Hawk. But remember what we said. I scale, you die. It's 17 minutes. But the kills are maybe starting to get there.
If this game goes another 17 minutes, Scrapes, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something publicly that'll make me look stupid.
Root said he would shave his head yesterday if a game went one way or another.
He not only said he would shave his head, Root said he would fly to America and shave his head, which is pretty insane. Yeah, I don't know. I'll shave my head if this game goes another 17 minutes. There's just no way.
Oh, it's bold. I value my hair way too much to ever make a claim like that. If
If that happens, I'd be pretty sad. But that's
But
where we get
it's for
Kangas
the
to come onto
content.
Salty Runback when he's not casting NACL, and Kangas and I do a bald cast together. That's how that
Oh,
works.
okay. Now I'm rooting for ISU once
That's
again.
content. That's
And
content, right?
they're gonna need a couple of really, really good things to fall their way. The dominoes have to be in line. As the inhibitor tower will get cracked open in the mid lane, 18 minutes in. LiT looking to just close this out smooth and simply. It is just massive gold advantages all around. You see Sajid with 2 items and a half versus Williams 1. Vivacious working towards a stone plate. And ISU have to just continue to look to try to find picks. You see the ultimates being thrown out, but there's just nothing just yet. Maybe Kaya gets picked off by the shockwave, but look at the front line for LiT. Nobody is going down. Munchie picks up Dozer, and Sajid is untouched at the entire end of the fight. Vivacious goes forward, sends the ulti back. Squilliam has to flash away. The Antofos come through, and that's another kill. And it looks like, Hawk, your hair might be safe for now. Meslo dying on the backside of this fight, and LiT is looking to end the game here with a dancing Shelly in the mid lane. It almost goes on to the first Nexus tower, the second under fire as well. Tempos and GFP have to find something quick, and I don't think they will. LiT Esports are going to try and end this game. They're going to send ISU back to their classrooms and face off against Horizon Gaming on Saturday.
It's going to be a pretty lit qualification match next week, Grapes, as, wow, Lethal Intention. Their intent is certainly lethal this game. 23 kills in 19 minutes. They end in sub 20. That is a demolition.
What an amazing series. And again, it's just the growth that we even saw between each game. LiT are a bunch of newer players. They have been coached by Pukar. You see them make these adjustments. It just is really, really impressive to watch, and I'm so excited to see this team moving forward. Obviously, they lost to Supernova pretty handily, but they have another week, some more time to practice, some more scrims. They're up against Horizon, who did lose their last series. I mean, this really could be an interesting matchup here next Saturday.
Truly. And I mean, Lethal Intention, LiT. I'm just so impressed. Again, I want to mention the way that they learned. Game number 1, they lost because they made a critical mistake after getting first Baron and let ISU back into the game. Game number 2, they almost make a critical mistake in giving Drew Dozer 2 kills under bot tower and giving ISU a win condition. Game 3, no such mistakes. It is pure masterclass from start to finish. And look, not every game are you going to have your top laner get 6 solo kills, right? Like, that's not going to happen every time. But the team play from this team, the talent on this team is clear. And I'm so impressed.
Really good stuff. And I know that a lot of players on this team were being scouted by some higher level teams, some NACL teams, and were, turned away because maybe they didn't have enough experience. Well, now they all come together and they're looking really good. And of course, ISU, they put up some really, really impressive showings, especially in those first 2 games. But it's just going to be very, very interesting to continue to watch this LiT team grow. And they'll have another chance on Saturday. It's still a do or die for them, but now it's a chance to get into that top 8.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, look, Horizon looked good in their series against ISU. They looked really good. And LiT struggled against Supernova, right? So there is like something to be said. Maybe they'll struggle against these top teams. But Supernova also really handled Horizon easily. And all I can say is this is shaping up to be a really, really great series. And I'm excited to see it. I mean, Grapes, next week. So should we go over our
Yeah,
elimination matches?
let's
Real
take a
quick?
look here at we don't have a graphic, I don't think, yet for this, but basically on Saturday there will be some new stuff. Basically all the losers of the winners matchups will play against the winners of the losers matchups. The 1-1 teams will go at it for a chance to be that second seed in the GSL to enter that quarterfinals. Right now we're looking at Zenigma playing against Team Fish Taco in Group B. We're looking at UST taking on Godel Gamers once again, which was a great best of 3 last time around in Group A. We see in Group C, it's Team Ambition. I actually don't know who won the other game. If somebody in chat wants to inform me on that one, between CB and Winthrop. And then we also have LiT taking on Horizon Gaming in Group D. Rally Cry will be streaming one of them. The other 3 will be on, I believe, here. as well as either Smacks or Alk Battery Stream. We'll give you more information when we get it. But we're just very excited to continue this NACLQ journey as teams are really starting to scale up and enter the top 8.
Yeah, and we just heard from Snow 2 in the chat. Shout out. Winthrop did indeed win that series, so it will be
Oh,
Winthrop
wow.
up against Team Ambition, which of course Team Ambition looked pretty dominant in that series last time they played. But hey, maybe loses improve. Who knows? Unfortunately, ISU's road has ended here, but man, am I excited for Lethal Intention Graves because these young guns, they really showed up today in a big way to take this 2-1.
And we'll see more of them as they face off against Horizon on Saturday, whether it's here, whether it's on Alk Battery Smacks' stream, or if it's going to be covered by me over on twitch.tv/Challengers League. We will figure that out very, very soon. We'll have all of the updates available on our socials as soon as we can. But I think that's going to do it for us here on the Salty Runback stream. Thank you guys for all tuning in, sticking with us here on this Sunday night. Hawk, it's been a pleasure once again to finally get a series together here in the NACLQs in 2023. We'll have the podcast out again on Wednesday, so make sure you stick around for that. Shout out to Caddy, who has been working all the ones and twos behind on production, has been doing an exceptional job, and everybody else here who has tuned in and supported the NACLQ ecosystem throughout 2023. We'll say so long for now. Next Saturday, we'll get things started again with quarterfinal berth at stake. I've been Graves. That's been Hawk. We'll see you next time.